November 18th, Planning Commission, City of El Segundo. The Pledge of Allegiance, we'll start with that. Michelle, may I ask you to lead us?
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Michelle. May we have a roll call, please?
Of course, thank you. Commissioner Keldorf,
Here.
Commissioner Magai,
Present.
Commissioner Heschler,
Here.
Vice Chair Newman,
Present.
Chairman Baldino. Running late, but we have a quorum.
Thank you very much, Eduardo. Next item is public communications. We'll open public communications for anything that might be not related to what's on the agenda this evening. Is there anybody that wishes to speak before the commission this evening? Okay, thank you. We'll close public communications. The next would be written communications. Are there any written communications this evening, Eduardo? No. Thank you.
Mike, just interrupt for a moment. Did we have anybody on Zoom that did we ask them to raise their hand?
Yeah, let's just ask if there's anyone who is on Zoom who wishes to speak on items that are not on the agenda. Please go ahead and unmute yourself and state your name and your comments, please.
Somebody's got their hand up.
Okay, it's quiet out there.
One with the hand up.
One with a
Yeah.
hand up. There we go. Okay, if you'll go, can you hear us? Go ahead and speak up. Good evening.
Hello.
Hi, yes, welcome. If you'll state your name. Hello.
Hello.
There you go.
My name is Jasiri Carmichael.
Go right ahead. This is for public communications, yes?
I'm not supposed to do this one.
No worries. Okay.
Okay.
So there'll be a time later that you wish to speak?
Yeah.
Okay, very well. Stay tuned. Okay, we're, nobody else there?
No other
Okay,
no other hands up.
consent calendar. Anything from the consent calendar for this evening? None.
None.
Continued business? None. Next item is new public hearings, Pacific Coast Commons Specific Plan and Environmental Impact Report. Eduardo, who will be presenting for this evening?
I'll go ahead and give a real brief introduction. This item was scheduled to be heard at tonight's meeting. It was properly noticed for tonight's meeting. However, the applicant has requested that the item be continued to the December 9th. And so that is our recommendation, is to open the public hearing first and then allow any speakers who wish to speak on this item to speak, or give them the option to come back on December 9th. And then keep the public hearing open and continue the item to the December 9th meeting.
Okay, thank you. Then we'll go ahead and open for public hearing for this item this evening. Is there anybody who wishes to speak on this item tonight?
I do have one speaker slip.
Okay,
I have Byron Washam.
Good evening. I'm Byron Washam, a resident of El Segundo. In advance of the next meeting on the 9th, there was an ominous statement in the notice today regarding a request for waiver of the dedication on Mariposa, as well as other items dealing with Palm. I've reviewed your environmental impact statement and cannot find any reference to that request. So I would ask that it be noticed as to what they mean by that particular statement prior to December 9th.
Very well noted.
Noted.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, I have no other speaker slips. And
Okay.
that's it.
All right, then may we have a motion to move to the December 9th meeting? Continue this item?
I'll move.
Okay, second?
I'll second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Mr. Baldino has joined us.
Sorry I was late.
We are, I know what traffic's like, don't worry about it, Ryan. We are on item 2, starting right here.
Perfect, thank you, Brenda.
Okay.
All right, second item on our agenda, we're dealing with professional sports headquarters and training facility. The project address 2000 East El Segundo Boulevard, lots 7, 8, and 18, located on the Raytheon campus middle southeast portions. Campus is bounded by El Segundo Boulevard, Greenway Railway, and Topgolf facility. And do we have a staff report for this?
Yes, we do. Good evening, Chair Baldino, Vice Chair Newman, and fellow commissioners. My name is Brad Meisner, and I'm a contract planner assisting the city on this project. It's a real pleasure to be back here in El Segundo, a place that I called home for over 8 years of my life, so pleased to be here this evening. So we are here this evening to talk about the proposed Los Angeles Chargers training facility and a new Raytheon storage building. Just a quick overview of the presentation this evening. First, we'll talk a little bit about the El Segundo South Campus specific plan. I'll take you in detail through the Chargers facility plan, also the Raytheon storage building site plan and proposed building. We'll talk a little bit about the Nash Street extension and some changes that are required there. I'll talk about the entitlements that are needed for this action. And then last but not least, we'll talk a little bit about the development agreement. So to orient the public and the commission, first, this is the, outlined in yellow is the El Segundo South Campus specific plan area. It's in the southeast quadrant of the city, represents about 142 acres, and this is primarily where the Raytheon campus is located. The unique thing about the specific plan that was adopted by ordinance back in 2016 is that it does require, or rather allows for, a wide variety of land uses and land uses and processes, right? So there's a mix of office and light industrial, as well as commercial, and there's retail that's being constructed now along El Segundo Boulevard. Further, the implementation of that specific plan allows for economic opportunities for the city, as well as promotes job growth. Moving on to the proposed project, the new training facility for the Los Angeles Chargers would be located on approximately 13.7 acres in the southeast portion of what is known as Phase 2 of the specific plan. It would be a 3-story headquarter facility of 143,000 square feet. Would also have 3 practice fields, both with natural grass fields as well as artificial turf around the perimeters. There would be storage buildings for groundskeeping and maintenance along with this facility. There's 347 parking spaces that are broken up across 2 surface level parking lots, fully equipped with landscaping throughout the parking. Along the eastern and southern property boundaries, there would be poles and netting, and this would be for the screening of the facility and also to provide privacy for the practice fields themselves. As you can see here on the site plan, to the east, and what is number 7 there, represents the 3 large surface playing fields. The white sort of hexagon shape is the top of where the facility would be, and we'll see some images of that in a moment. And then you can see the 2 parking lots, one to the west and then one kind of tucked behind the fields to the south. This is a proposed, this is an image of the front elevation that would be seen from South Hughes Way. As you can see, the architecture is rather iconic, modern style, with the dramatic overhang with the roof. There'll be high-quality graphics and signage on the building. All signage for the building itself would need to be compliant with the specific plan. That has been reviewed for compliance, and we found it to be compliant. No more than 20% of any given facade is allowed for total signage area. Here's a perspective rendering that gives you a little bit more of a contextual idea of where it's located on its site and also within the specific plan itself. There would be a wide variety of landscaping throughout the site. There's upwards of a little over 325,000 square feet of landscaping. 40,000 square feet of that would be within planting areas. We're also talking about a significant amount of landscaping in the form of the actual fields themselves. There's about 47 trees that would be planted along the new, the Nash Street extension. One requirement that you'll see that's very project-specific in the condition of approval is that the final planting plan would need to be reviewed and approved by the planning department prior to the issuance of the building permit. So we're still looking at some of the details on that. I will note that palm trees are one type of tree type that is in the conditions of approval that has been noted for not being authorized. Moving forward, well, let me just sum up here. So again, this is the facility, 3 stories, 147,000 square feet with the 3 fields, as well as the netting that would be along the metro line for privacy. Moving on to the proposed project, which is the new storage building for Raytheon. That would be a 1-story prefab Butler building of approximately 5,800 square feet. It's anticipated to be an ancillary building that's part and parcel of the Raytheon facilities and would replace existing buildings that they have now on site and would be primarily used as storage for their purposes. This is a site plan that shows the proximity of where that building would be located along with its shape. Again, about 5,200 square feet, a proposed Butler building. Here's a perspective rendering of that building. A little out of focus, I apologize for that. What you will note is in the foreground, there's a chain link fence that is proposed to be at the front of that structure. Staff has added a condition of approval that would require either one, that landscaping be planted to soften the appearance of that fence, and/or that it be removed if it's not deemed to be necessary through the formal plan check review process by the Building and Safety Division. Also, part of the project involves the Nash Street extension and the need for this street to be realigned. During the realignment and reconstruction of the street, there are cross sections within the specific plan that are mandated that would require improvements such as Class 2 bike lane, landscaping, sidewalks. So the final design for the roadway would need to go through review and approval by the city's Public Works Department, and they would ensure compliance with the specific plan with final designs there. For the Nash Street extension, a number of minor amendments to the specific plan would be necessary, and they primarily would be to update a number of exhibits that are existing within the specific plan, namely to show how the parcelizations would change throughout the specific plan, to illustrate how some of our conceptual utility plans would change, and then also to indicate just updated conceptual site plans as well. This is an illustration just showing the existing Nash Street as it stands now. It's going to be a little bit difficult to determine, but as you can see in the sort of the highlighted roadway in orange, what happens is it sort of flattens out in its realignment, and I'll just kind of show you a before and after. So again, it kind of comes down and hooks there just to the north of parcels 7 and 8, which is where the Chargers facility would be located. And then the realignment here would flatten it out a little bit more and create a bit more room for parcels 7 and 8 for the Chargers facility. In terms of the entitlement applications, there are a number of applications, and you'll note throughout the resolutions that are needed for this particular project. First and foremost, the environmental impact report that was adopted for the specific plan back in 2016 is the baseline environmental document that has been examined to determine environmental impacts based on the maximum build out of the specific plan area. This particular project, consistent with the CEQA guidelines, was eligible for what is known as the CEQA addendum, in that the project itself is less intensive than what was studied on the original EIR. So in that way, the full totality of the proposed project was studied and has been deemed to be less intensive. I will note that all of the mitigation measures and the mitigation monitoring program that was put in place as part of the original EIR is still in place, and that would not change. There was also a development agreement amendment that was requested as part of this application, and I'll get into that in a bit more detail in a moment. Also, a minor amendment of the specific plan. I just touched base on that. The minor amendment, namely, is to amend certain existing exhibits within the specific plan to make way for that roadway realignment. There is an existing vesting tentative track map that was put in place when the specific plan was adopted. It laid out a map for 26 parcels within the entire specific planning area. There will be a new map that would be recorded. What that does effectively is takes 13 parcels are left in their exact shape. 13 parcels are remapped because some of their lot sizes and shapes are changing, and again, that's due to the realignment of Nash Street. So those parcels, that track map has been reviewed. The parcels are meeting minimum lot sizes and dimensions as set forth in the specific plan. And then last but not least, the site plan review, right? The site plan review is the detailing behind both projects, both the Butler Building as well as the Chargers facility. In terms of the site plan, staff is reviewing those projects for consistency with setbacks and height design for our landscaping standards, for the lighting standards, for signage, fencing, and all perimeter conditions. I would note that for the lighting and signage for the Chargers facility, there would also be 10 poles that would be for the lighting for the actual fields themselves. So they're designed to prevent glare onto adjoining properties. They would be low spill LED lights. There would be approximately 150-foot candles that would have that amount of light on the actual fields themselves. However, it would be conditioned that there would be no more than 8-foot candles of light shed beyond the property boundaries. As I mentioned earlier, in terms of the signage, all signage would have to comply with the master sign program that's set forth for the specific plan. That has been reviewed for substantial compliance and has been found to be compliant. A deep dive and a double check would happen during the actual formal plan check process prior to the issuance of any building permits. In terms of landscaping and trees, as I mentioned before, a formal landscape plan will need to be reviewed and approved and reviewed by all city agencies prior to building permits. Last but not least, I want to talk on the tentative map again. Just this is the same images I showed you earlier when we were talking about the Nash Street extension. The purpose of these images is to give you a perspective of a before and after of how the lots would change. So as you see here in this first image, you can see how the existing Nash Street comes down and hooks around. And then again, with the realignment, you'll see the shaded area of lots 7 and 8. That's where the Chargers facility would be. The rectangular box in red is where the approximate location of the Butler Building would be. So you'll see just before and after a bit of the parcelization as they change. I touched on this earlier. Again, there was an EIR addendum that was prepared for this project. Again, the project was found to be less intensive than what was studied within the original EIR for the specific plan. The addendum is appropriate under CEQA, the California Environmental Quality Act, guidelines for analyzing potential environmental impacts from the proposed project. It was found that there are no new impacts that would result from the proposed project. And again, all previously identified mitigation measures would still be in place. I'll note that we do have on our Zoom call this evening, we have representatives from Kimley Horn that prepared the environmental analysis, and they're here to answer any questions that the commission may have. In terms of the development agreement, as I noted, we talked a bit about that. As it stands now within the existing development agreement, it's stated that there would be the need for 7.54 acres of recreation area to be dedicated to the city at time, when the construction of Nash Street and Continental Boulevard extensions, when any development would occur in Phase 4. The Butler Building is within that Phase 4. So as part of this project, a proposed development agreement, the applicant has requested that the construction of Continental Boulevard and the implementation of the recreation area and open space would occur when the next development would occur. So they're looking to kind of delay that. In exchange for that, what the applicant is offering is a monetary contribution to the city of $3 million. That would be payable in 3 installments, one early in the process, prior to the issuance of building permit, during certain sections of construction, and then the last installment prior to the certificate of occupancy. And so that $3 million is a contribution that would be, staff is recommending would go towards the swim stadium renovations. And then also, what is also offered is that there would also be city access to use the Raytheon, the recreational facilities that Raytheon has now, the facilities in the fields, and that could be scheduled, that activity could be scheduled outside of the normal working hours pursuant to a written agreement. So with that, just a few final comments to wrap up. There was an errata that was provided to the commission yesterday on November 17th. You should all have a copy of that. The errata included an updated resolution of 2904 and 2905 respectively. The errata essentially makes minor revisions to the documents, deleted some of the repetitive conditions that are in there, and provided some additional clarity. And then again, as I had noted before, just the conditions of approval that are specific to the projects are within the resolutions themselves. With that, there are 3 recommendations that city staff has for the Planning Commission this evening. The first is that the staff is recommending that the Planning Commission recommend to City Council adoption of Resolution 2902 to adopt the EIR addendum consistent with the California Environmental Quality Act. The second recommendation would be to recommend to have the Planning Commission recommend to City Council adoption of Resolution 2903 to approve the entitlement applications, namely the DA amendment, the minor amendments to the specific plan, the vesting tentative track map, and the site plan review for the Chargers facility. And then last but not least would be a recommendation to City Council to adopt Resolution 2904 to approve site plan review 2102, which is involving the construction of the Raytheon storage building. With that, that concludes my presentation. I'm certainly here to answer any questions as well as your city staff as well. Thank you.
And Chair and for Commissioner, I have one clarification. Pursuant to discussions had late last week and early this week between the city manager and the applicant is requiring actually that the $3 million be used for the plunge. It will not be for the general fund for purposes of the council making a determination. The applicant's requiring that the money only be used for the plunge. So I wanted to clarify that.
Thank you, Mr. Hensley. And thank you for the report. I have a few questions for you.
Sure.
Can you pull up the plan site? I'm looking at page 13 on the report we were given. It's more color-coded. Might help the conversation a little bit.
Which site?
Page 13 of the agenda packet. at the proposed land use plan.
Do you have the agenda? Okay.
You can pull up the black and white one if you need to. You have it in your PowerPoint, Mr. Marsley.
You're talking about the staff report?
Yeah, the staff report.
Okay.
There was a black and white version. The joys of new technology in our
Yeah.
chambers.
Could you point me to the image you're looking for?
Right here.
Oh,
You had
okay,
the
yeah.
site-
Okay. Okay, that's in the staff report right here.
El Segundo TV, I'm sharing from the Zoom, my screen, which has the exhibit. Thank you.
Thank you, Eduardo. Okay, in the staff report, page 1011, it refers to the Raytheon employee private park. So am I to understand that the security fence will be on the outside of that park, on the perimeter of the road?
I believe so, and I certainly we can ask for more clarity from the applicant architect if we need to.
The fence is not changing.
I'm sorry?
The fence around the park is not proposed to be changed.
I can't hear you, Mr. Hensley.
I'm sorry, the fence around the current Raytheon Park is not proposed to be changed.
Okay, so we are talking about a private Raytheon park that only Raytheon employees will be using, correct?
Are you referring to the 10 and 11 image there?
10 and 11, yes.
So that is the area in the specific plan where that recreation open space is identified.
Okay. And what we're being asked to do is basically reallocate the open space recreation area currently on 11 to include lot number 10.
Yes, so, yes.
Okay? And then in the staff report, we're being asked to determine the project's consistent with the general plan and the specific plan, correct?
Yes.
And on page 23 of the staff report, the first item is economic development. And it says that we should approve this because it meets the economic goals of improving the tax base, correct?
Yes.
And what's referred there is the 2015 Cosmont Company study, which said if you took the FAR for this development and hypothetically built it out, we would generate $2.6 million in taxes and have 4,598 jobs, correct?
Yes.
But that's the 2015 study based on a complete build-out, right?
I
Okay.
believe that's based on maximum build-out.
Maximum build-out. And there is a common formula in developments where if we get an office project, it tells us you're gonna get this many employees. These employees are gonna go to lunch, they're gonna go to shop. It's gonna increase the tax revenue of the city just by bringing more people into town, correct?
From both direct and indirect economic input.
Okay.
Yes.
And the Chargers are building this 143,000 square foot building for their employees and their teams, right? And in the report, in the Kimley Horn EIR, it identifies that there'll be 270 employees at the building. Does that sound right?
Yes.
And 85 special employees, which will come at odd hours. I'm assuming that's the athletes. But the total number is 270 employees.
That's the approximate, yes.
Okay, so this project is the headquarters, the office, and then football fields, 3 football fields.
Yes.
Okay, there is no analysis, and I asked Eduardo, has the city considered what the tax income would be if instead of a giant football field, we had an office building, coffee shop, restaurants, mixed use, the things that were in the development agreement, what that tax revenue would be versus what the tax revenue would be from the Chargers? Has that question been asked?
So that has not been studied specifically on the city side. Perhaps the applicant can speak to that. But again, also the assumption of the revenue as well as jobs, again, is based on full build-out of the specific plan, which obviously has not occurred yet.
Right, but even on these lots, we're not getting a full build-out of a .6 FIR, and we're not gonna get an office building that's gonna have multiple companies. We're gonna have one single source company that's gonna pay the general business tax in town, which I believe is $253. And then we'll get the residual tax income from the employees and the athletes, correct?
I believe that's the tax structure.
Okay,
There's a combination based upon employees and square footage and whatnot. I don't know what that number is, but
in 2011, the business general tax for a business is $109.50. If you have over 10 employees, you pay another $137.70. If your square footage is over 5,000, it's another 27 cents. And then rate 424C, which I don't even know what that means, is another $11.20. That comes out to $256.67. Okay? That's from what I have from the Cities of El Segundo business tax registration fees. Okay, so you would agree that let me ask this. Would you agree that basing the economic benefit on a 2015 study for complete build-out really doesn't apply to this project because the project is much smaller, there are much fewer employees? Would you agree with that?
Brad, if I can if I can just interject. I would ask that at this time, the questions that are asked of staff are for informational purposes related to the data or the information that's provided in the staff report. Our recommendation is that we believe that the finding can be made as outlined in the staff report. So if we can provide further information related to that, we're happy to do so. But otherwise, I want to avoid that type of conjecture.
I appreciate what you're saying, Mr. Allen. Okay, so can I ask you, what is your understanding of why the $3 million is being paid or being offered?
I have to defer to the city attorney on that.
Would you please repeat the question?
Yeah, can I get an understanding of why the $3 million is being offered?
The community benefit fee?
Correct, correct.
That's due, in part due to the triggering of the requirements that would be there for phase 4. Right, so this is the exchange for that. So this is to provide an offsetting community benefit.
Okay, this is for the delay in providing the public benefit of the park.
In part, correct.
Okay, and when the applicant says we want to do the park in the next phase, does that mean phase 3?
the way it's drafted is that the next construction that occurs will, outside of the projects that have been approved, will trigger the park condition.
I'm sorry, the next construction outside of,
What's been approved so far, the projects that have been approved so far. So you've had phase 1 and phase 2, and phase 2, this will be the second time, I believe, where phase 2 has been pushed out a little bit. Or, I'm not gonna, whatever the amount is, whether it's a little, but it's been, this will be the second time that park condition would have been triggered, or might be, still be triggered. It's up to the commission and the council. And the amount of acreage that triggered that in the phases is being requested to be amended so that you don't get into that next phase and trigger the recreation requirement. So the next project that would come forward would trigger the recreation if this is approved.
And that's regardless of which phase it's in?
Well, it will be in phase 3 or 4. I mean, it depends on where they build, but yeah, I mean, it's.
Well, there's still land left in phase 2 also.
Well, but they've got rights already to build in certain areas that have, those would have been granted pursuant to the prior actions of this body and the council. So it will be the later projects that get approved, if there are later projects.
right, there's no obligation of Raytheon to even create future projects after this one. They have that option, but they're not required to.
That's correct.
And as a follow-up to that, when the park, whenever that is, assuming that is triggered, then Raytheon assumes the cost to construct the park. But if there's city access, is there any sort of a cross-use agreement consideration about what that looks like?
Well, there's two ways they can meet the requirement. One is to develop a facility for the properties within that area to use, or to offer it for dedication to the city. So there are two different ways they can meet the requirement. And I apologize, I have a deep voice, and so I have to talk really loud, but if you can't hear me, just ask me to repeat myself. Or if you need further explanation, I'll be happy to do so.
Well, I understand that there's an either or, but I guess my question is, let's say that what we approve is that the city will have access to a park on Raytheon grounds. Does the city have any say in what's included in that park? I mean, I know it's mentioned in the staff report for youth sports, which is fantastic, but if there are no fields built as part of the park, then that really is not that helpful.
Okay, and I'm going to separate this out a bit. There's being proposed on an interim basis an agreement between Raytheon and the city for what is the enclosed area at Raytheon, those recreation fields, to allow the city to schedule the use in conjunction with Raytheon of those fields by city groups. It's sort of an interim step. Certainly not going to be a public park. It's not going to be you can drop in and use that park. It will have to be scheduled use. And that's going to have to be coordinated between the city and Raytheon, and they have employees that utilize that too, and they will have priority over that, so I want to make it really clear. But if the next phase comes along and triggers the recreation, their obligation is not to build a park for the city, it's to offer the land for the city, so that if the city wanted to take that land and build a park, it could. So they're not required to actually pay for the construction of a park.
But if they're building a park for employees, then they are and they would, right?
Well, they have a park currently for their employees. If you're talking about if it's for the park, for the use of the area, the employees within that area, yeah, they'd have to work out the details of that.
Can I get a clarification on the park? So it's not Raytheon or the property owner's obligation to construct the park, just set aside land. And if the city pays for constructing the park, do their employees still have priority over?
No, if they offer land to dedication to the city and the city decides to accept that land and develop a park on it, it will be a public park owned by the city.
Okay. And so using the existing park, I heard the words pursuant to an agreement. So is there anything that we could, because when I hear that, I hear both parties have to agree to it, and if one party just says, I don't have to agree to anything, and is there any safeguards there that allow us access, or can they just blow us off?
In your agenda packet, there's a memorandum of understanding, which is a written agreement, and the language is, it provides that they have to meet with staff on a quarterly basis and schedule uses in coordination with the city. Their employees have priority, but they have to reasonably work with us and approve the use of that, which is, I mean, it's attorney language, but it means they have to work with the city to schedule events. Now, they've made it clear that they have concerns about competition play, but that they will allow competition play among youth groups, particularly on the weekend when they don't have all their employees there. So there are some restrictions. It's a secured facility. Their big concerns, and I'll let them speak to it when they speak, but and certainly ask some questions. But as we've sat with them, their big issue they wrestle with is security, cars coming in. They have to check everybody that comes in. And so the maximum number of people going in and out is a big concern to them, and trying to run their business and having people coming in and out of their parking lot.
I was taught as a young attorney that a memorandum of understanding is a document you create listing all the things you agreed not to do, right? And a good one says, I don't have to do anything, and I'm not in breach of the agreement. So Raytheon says we can use it unless their employees use it. They also can shut it down if there's for security reasons, pandemic reasons, for whatever reason. So they can offer to use it, they can meet with us and schedule it. They also have the right to say no for any reason they want.
I would not agree with that, respectfully, that they have to have reasonable reasons to not let us use it. Yes, it does put forth if there's a pandemic or some national security event, they have the right, they may be required by the federal government to do so. In fact, there's a language in there, but Raytheon simply saying we won't let you use it without offering good reasons, I don't believe that is consistent with the language in the agreement.
So to Chair Baldino's point, that the community benefit agreement or the funding that's being applied to that is to delay the requirement to put up a city-owned and operated park that we have complete access to. So it's delaying that. So I guess for us commissioners, we have to think about, is that $3 million enough to delay what could potentially be indefinitely? Am I correct?
Correct, and you're absolutely right. Yes, and whatever the commissioner's thoughts and concerns are, you absolutely should express those. So we can take them forward to the council. That's your role. It's our role to be good listeners and take your comments forward.
I don't necessarily have a concern about that amount of money, more curiosity about why $3 million. So if a resident asks, why are they dedicating $3 million to the plunge? What's the response to that? What's the calculation?
Mr. Chair, members of the Planning Commission, the answer to that question is that's where we ended up. That was the maximum amount the applicant was willing to put on the table. But if I can provide clarity, you're getting a sense as to the challenge that this project proposes in terms of it's an exciting land use, it's an interesting land use, it doesn't fit nicely into the parameters of the specific plan and the parcels and the road configuration and all of that. So as with any applicant, we sit down and try to help them figure out how they can get to where they want to go and balance with the current zoning specific plan and development agreement. They do not fit neatly together. So as a result, some of the parcels have to be changed. The road, Nash Street, has to be reconfigured. And by doing that, and the Butler building, the storage building, has to be relocated for Raytheon. So by doing that, it triggers phases 3 or 4 and all these other things. And that then it creates a challenge for the public park component or park use. So we try to navigate those waters to the best of our ability, and that's where the community benefit came in. Should that fee be higher or lower? Ultimately, that'll be up to the council to decide, but we did our level best to get as much as possible, and that's where we landed. And the applicant has requested that money be used for the plunge rehabilitation project because I know it's an important community goal. I do want to talk a little bit about the park MOU and access. We feel we have stronger language that will ensure the public has access to use that park for the soccer leagues, the softball leagues. There's a school that uses it to some extent. It would be ideal if the gate was, or the park was outside of the gate, not on the inside of the gate. We did ask Raytheon to provide some more flexibility. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. They're telling us there isn't. But we understand and hear you clearly, and we know what the council's desire is from that point of view. We fully expect, though, assuming this project goes through and it's agreed to and it gets built, whatever happens next, though, on the Raytheon property, the park issue will have to be dealt with. The 7.5 acres will have to be secured in order for something to happen next in terms of phases 3 or 4. Does that help? I mean, that was the challenge that we faced. We feel we have the best proposal given all of those parameters, but it is your decision on what you want to recommend, and ultimately it's the city council's decision in terms of what's best for the community. So I don't have a mathematical formula to share. We got to $3 million based on a set of parameters. It was a negotiation. That was the best we were able to produce.
Well, my issue is that in the First Amendment, we talked about this in 2019 for an hour and a half at least with the gentleman from Raytheon. And he assured us, you know, he didn't want the park inside, he wanted the park outside. He assures the park is going to be in phase 3. And then we get this plan, and this is not the best representation, But the zoning in phase 3, there is no open rec space zoned in phase 3. The Second Amendment, section 9.2 says within 30 days of approval of a land transfer of the recreational open space area to an alternative parcel, and before the building permit may be issued on parcel 11, they have to dedicate 7.5 acres outside the security fence. Today, we're being asked to approve a change to the plan and the maps to move 11, the open space, to 10. So in my mind, 9.2 is triggered. So you're telling me that $3 million is to delay that until the next phase happens?
That is correct.
Okay, then why aren't we deciding during this process where that 7.5 acres is going to be in phase 3? Because if we approve it now, there is no open space outside the perimeter fence. The only open space is inside the perimeter fence, and that's not a public park. So if it's required by 9.2 to happen within 30 days of the approval by council, where we allocate parcel 11 to parcel 10, then why aren't we having the conversation now? Because it's only zoned for commercial and office. But if everyone says, well, the park has to be in phase 3, why can't we do that now as part of the overall plan so we don't have to have this conversation 5 years from now or 10 years from now or whenever it ever comes up? And maybe that's a question that can't be answered. I just feel like it seems simpler
If the
as
developer,
opposed.
I'm sorry, I didn't
No,
interrupt.
go ahead.
If the developer's willing to commit to that, then we could. And it is a negotiation, and it doesn't mean the city has to accept what they've proposed.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, can I point something out? I don't know if it's in the report, but I wanted to share this with the commission and those that are watching to illustrate Raytheon's commitment to ensure the public has access right now. So if you could zoom in on the park site where it is now, and as you come in off El Segundo Boulevard onto Nash, and if you were to turn right, can you zoom in there? Okay. Go to where's the park? To the left. Yeah, keep going, keep going. Okay, can I use I wish you had an Apple product. This is like an antique. So, right in here, Raytheon has agreed, I hope I'm at the right spot where I have the cursor. They're going to put in a paved parking lot there. I can't remember, it's 30 or 50 spaces. Does anybody here remember? They'll have a number of parking spaces that are dedicated for the park users. So they'll minimize the interface between those that are coming in for the soccer or softball or other uses. They'll have a dedicated area to park, and they promise to work on having wayfinder signage and better ingress and egress. So that is a reflection of their commitment to making this available to the public. They're working very cooperatively with the city. We get to do the programming. We collect the fees to help deal with the cost of the programming, and we're evolving in a very nice, healthy, productive way. We see the use increasing, not decreasing. As your staff, we agree with the sentiment I'm hearing that it should be outside the gate. If we can get to that point, that would be ideal. We do not want to create a problem for Raytheon, interface problems. We do not want any of our residents or park users to somehow end up on their property or create a security issue. We respect greatly what goes on at Raytheon's property for our national security and all that. We would like to see more movement in that area.
If we agree to push this to the next phase and the next phase never happens, then there's no obligation to dedicate 7.5 acres for a park, is there?
We're already in that situation. If there's no development right now, nothing happens. So if this is approved, the Chargers project will happen. The road will go in. The community benefit fee will be paid and will have enhanced access to the park and parking. So if this doesn't happen, you lose all that. If it does happen, we get that. But you are right. It does push off getting the commitment and the 7.5 acres for a public park to the next phase. You're correct. But in looking at this, it's hard to fathom or imagine how a next phase could happen without the park happening.
And what do you mean by that?
So if Raytheon or Marventure CDC comes to us after this project and says, okay, I'd like to put in another building on another parcel, it's hard to imagine that's going to happen without the park issue being resolved.
But if it's required to happen now, because we're shifting 11 to 10,
You're correct.
and we know once they build 1 square inch, we're gonna have to get that park, then why aren't we planning now on the track map to show where that open space park is gonna be? I mean, there's already a park there. So it's not like where it's a parking lot, it's gotta be
Yeah.
developed that much. It's, phase 3 is the park.
Chair, if I may just interject, I want to make sure, just a point of order a little bit. I think these are really good questions. These are the type of questions that might need to wait until there's a little bit of deliberation amongst the body itself. Right now is a good time to ask staff clarifying questions related to what's being asked of them, which some of this is, or clarifications of the data or information provided in the staff report, the findings that are necessary to make the decisions and the actions that are being asked of you tonight. I want to make sure that we have the opportunity for yourself and the rest of the commissioners to ask those clarifying questions, but then also allow the opportunity for the applicant to present their case, public hearing for the members of the public to express their opinions of the project or ask their questions. And then much of this questioning and deliberation can happen amongst the commission, or should happen amongst the commission, as the city attorney pointed out. Some of these pieces are good questions that need to be asked of the applicant.
All right, thank you for that clarification, Mr. Allen. Any other factual questions that anyone has for staff?
I have a development impact fee question. So we've had a little bit of this conversation. Our last impact fee study is from 2015. Those are being updated, and it will be a condition of this project or any project pending to be in compliance with what would be 2022, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay. And then a question about use, and again, a curiosity. So non-residential fees vary depending on use, commercial, industrial. I understand what the office building comes in as. What do we classify those 3 football fields as? Open space? Because then that's nothing. Commercial, industrial.
Go ahead, Eduardo.
Yeah, we would just really look at the office building itself, because that is what is generating the need for, for the services. It's not the actual fields themselves. So we would just base it on it being office in the entirety of the building.
But they can't practice without practice fields. That is the purpose.
I would augment Eduardo's statement that these fields are supportive of the general operation, which is a corporate headquarter of the Los Angeles Chargers. And so these fields are the practice fields to support the overall operation. It's a sort of like an ancillary or accessory use to the primary use.
Right, it'd be different if it was just a beautiful green
Right.
lawn. Okay. All right, any other questions?
I have a number of
I
questions.
had go ahead.
Good, no, please. Go.
An important question, very, very important question about palm trees. Why no palm trees?
I'll take it. I think we are open to, we're not against palm trees. What we would like to see is a landscape plan that's consistent with the city's urban forest master plan. And so there are several other, local native trees, trees with greater shade covering and canopies that are promoted and preferred in the city's existing urban forest master plan. And so we will look for, and then there could be some palm trees, but we will look for a landscape plan that's more consistent with the existing master plan.
We are not anti-palm tree. Go on record right now.
Is there a presentation from the applicant as well? I mean,
We have to close. We're still asking questions for staff, and then the applicant will have its presentation, and then we'll have public comments. And it's nice to see a full house. Thank you, everyone.
So if I may, I want to verify a question or a response to a question that Chair Baldino asked. So you did not compare the job creation from the previous use in the EIR to what this use would be, correct? But you did say that it would be less intensive. Your assumption is that it would be less intensive then, correct?
Yes,
I think I
from an
heard you mention
environmental
that.
perspective.
Yeah. I heard you mention less intensive. But I heard you also tout that it's a job growth project, which, if you're doing a comparative analysis, then it's not as good as what we could potentially have. So I just want to make that clear. So based on the I guess, employment generation, I want to ask some questions about traffic. So did you guys do a comparison of the daily peak hour of what could have been versus what this project would be? And how do they compare? And I'm not familiar with professional team headquarters, but what is the peak hour for a use like this versus, an office building? We all know what that is. How does the peak hour compare? And what are the impacts to traffic flow?
Yeah, we do have our environmental consultant available. I think that's probably something that could probably come from them to give you a better solid answer in terms of how, what was looked at and how that was done. So I'll go ahead and make sure, I mean, she's on here, so I'll go ahead and ask her to see if she could provide you with some of those answers.
Okay, thank you. And overall access, so it seems like, what I saw in the staff report, that the regional access would be from Nash Street, or from El Segundo Boulevard to Nash Street, correct?
That's
But
correct.
the local access would be on Hughes.
There's some assumption around that, yes.
Okay, so, because it's not a big traffic generator, I'm assuming it's not, and we'll find out shortly. But with the special events, if you're expecting, people, populations in the thousands coming for spring training game or whatever it is, will there be traffic mitigation in place depending on the time of day on which access is better to use, depending on, what the numbers expected and the time of day or day of the week as well?
Right, so you'll note in the staff report, I think in the conclusion, we indicate that there was the LA Times article that came out that talked about the possibility of being some spectators there for training facilities. That is not part of the actual project description that was filed with the city. So I think the idea there is that would need to be talked about in depth. That would be the subject of essentially like a special project or a temporary use. Okay. And then there would have to be a full analysis of how parking and any kind of mitigations, transportation, demand management measures, how that might occur for special events.
Okay, so would they have to get a permit that goes to the planning commission to do a special event like that we can kind of look at how they're approaching?
So yeah, so we have taken a look at the municipal code to determine how that might occur, and it is our belief that a permit would be necessary.
Okay, thank you. So is the building, are there any requirements for the building to be LEED certified at any level? Since it's a new build, and I think that it's a good opportunity to kind of have those types of buildings in the city.
So there's not a specific LEED requirement that's conditioned as part of the project, and that certainly if the commission wanted to make comments around it, that you're welcome to do that. I would say that, however, under existing Title 24 regulations, you're talking about a pretty high standard for efficiency in any given building.
Okay. And then the screening, I'm kind of little, not baffled, but I have a lot of questions about the screening. So, as I understand, the screening is meant to prevent the metro from looking down at practice, right? So, have you guys looked at different space configurations or, site configurations where the practice field's on the other side? There looks to be a grassy buffer on that side. Just because if it's meant to screen the metro line, then it has to be a pretty tall screen versus if you're screening people at street level. So that could cause some blight, depending on, your perspective. Have alternative site configurations been examined so that we don't have to have some giant screen?
Right. So we did not have enough detail on that particular issue. What you would note in the resolution is a very specific project condition that the netting and the poles would need to come back to the planning commission for approval because there was just not enough detail known about that arrangement.
Well, I guess my fear is that we're locked into this configuration, and then we have really no choice. It's just a yes or no on the screens. Versus, hey, maybe we can move the field and have it someplace else. Then we don't have to have such kind of overbearing screens that are, that may or may not look good.
Well, and Kevin, to that point, maybe this is a question for the applicant, but are those screens intended to be opaque? Complete, no transparency so that you can't see from the metro, and so you're going to have these giant opaque walls that are 32 feet tall around the at least two sides.
Yeah, and if I may, I mean, see, those are excellent questions, and those are the same questions that staff had, which is why we didn't feel comfortable with just giving them carte blanche to just, yeah, go ahead and put up 32, 40-foot tall poles and netting, because, you know, even to the applicant's admission, I mean, they weren't certain exactly how that would work. They know they want some sort of netting, they know they want it for some privacy, they just don't know all the details, and we're not comfortable from a staff perspective, I'm not comfortable saying, yeah, just go ahead and do it. You know, we want to see the details, which is why we incorporate a condition that requires it to come back to the commission for review.
Understood.
Yeah, and then to your point, Commissioner McGuy, with regards to alternate site design or site layouts, yeah, I mean, that is something that we had discussed with the applicant, but, you know, in terms of just timing being the essence, this is what they had come to us. Yeah, you're right. I mean, you know, from a staff's perspective, yeah, there could be site planning alterations that could probably be done so that the building is on the eastern side, and that in itself could, you know, create that natural privacy screening for, you know, for the fields. But, you know, ultimately, this is what kind of landed in our lap, and this is what, you know, and again, with all these unknowns, these question marks with regards to the, you know, to the netting and the poles, that is the reason why we structured the condition of approval the way we did.
So to clarify, so if we do approve this as is, then the site configuration will move forward. Again, I'm just worried about, if we're locked into the site configuration, then when we do come to a point of approving the screening, we won't have any real options, right? Like, versus, can we move do we have the option to move the site around if we do approve this tonight?
No, you wouldn't, because the condition is just solely going to be for regards to the screening. And, you know, there could be different mechanisms in place. There could be certain operational standards where they may be retractable netting on, you know, on a pulley system like you see, you know, behind the goalposts, you know, in NFL and college football games. You know, again, in terms of the netting, whether it's something that's clear, like you see at a golf course, I doubt that that's going to be, because, you know, they need that for privacy. So again, that would be more of a solid situation. Again, that could affect the, you know, the system, that could, you know, for wind loads and those types of things, the structural, the size, the diameters of the poles would be affected by that. Again, no one knows those things. No one knows exactly how many poles are going to be, you know, are necessary to provide that. Again, all these questions we also had, and which is why we didn't feel giving them the okay to just, you know, do it at this point was not on the table for us, hence the condition.
Okay, and then my last question. So, you know, we were just talking about the park access at Raytheon, and I know that the you know, Chargers are a private business. Would they grant us as a city access to those fields if needed for things like, you know, youth soccer practices when it's off season? I don't know. Would they open it up for access for community members?
I have a guess.
No, I would think that that's something that would be up to the applicant. I mean, I can only imagine that there might be, you know, some concerns on their end. I mean, it is a practice facility or field. You know, they use it, you know, to ensure that, you know, their players, you know, are safe in that environment. And you know, I don't know, opening it up to the public might, you know, result in some damage that, you know, may not fare well in the long run for their practice and for their athletes. But that's just kind of my take as view of why they would probably not. But no, that has not been looked at.
Good, thank you.
I have a question about Nash for the city. Is the Nash Street extension, is the intention to have that road completed prior to the opening of the facility, or is it what's the phasing?
I'm not sure we have that information in terms of the construction phasing. The applicant might have some information related to the construction phasing who could answer that question.
But as far as the road, I mean, that's going to be a significant cut through for our city, and will receive far more traffic than will ever go to the Chargers facility. It'll be the way that people get to the 105 freeway, and I'm just wondering what the timing of Nash street is.
And I believe there's a condition of approval for completion prior to certificate of occupancy in phase 2.
All right, any other factual questions for our staff on this matter? No? All right, we're going to open this up for public communication. The way it always works is the applicant gets to go first. I've seen a lot of union members here. Can I ask, are you all going to speak? Do you have a representative that's going to speak? 2 representatives going to speak? Okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Yeah, I do have 2 requests to speak, and they are in relation to number 2, so I do have 2 speakers.
Okay. So we'll talk to the applicant, and then we'll open it up for you guys. All right, welcome.
Good evening. I believe we're going to have a speaker that's coming up on Zoom first.
Oh,
So-
fun.
Good evening. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Super, thank you. My name is Emily Murray. I'm here this evening on behalf of Raytheon. Also present on Zoom for the Raytheon team are Steve Black, Rich Field, and Susan Bray Magnell. We're very excited to be here tonight. We're very excited about the Chargers project. We would be happy to answer any questions that the commission has for Raytheon, and also happy to discuss the Park MOU that Raytheon is proposing to enter into with the city regarding the city and the public's ongoing use of Raytheon's improved private park. I am going to turn it over to Lionel, who I believe has a slideshow presentation on behalf of the Chargers project, but I just want to thank staff and all of you tonight for your time and attention to this proposal.
Thanks, Emily. How about we talk about some NFL football headquarters for a little bit? Chairman Baldino, commissioners, my name is Bob Tarnowski. I am the Senior Vice President of Real Estate at Continental Development Corporation, and we're the applicant here tonight. I mean, we are absolutely delighted to be here this evening to present for your consideration one of our most exciting development projects ever. And we'll have 3 individuals come before you this evening to describe in much greater detail our project and how we envision the project coming to fruition. First up will be Richard Lundquist, President and CEO of Continental Development. Then we also have with us here tonight to speak Fred Maas, Chief of Staff for the Los Angeles Chargers, and Fred will be followed by Ron Turner, who's a principal at Gensler Sports, who, along with the Los Angeles Chargers, envisioned the development we're going to put before you tonight. Before we get started, though, I do want to clarify a couple of issues that have already been discussed by the commission. First one relates to entitlements. So we do have a blanket entitlement that covers what we call our South Campus, where the Chargers development is envisioned, and the North Campus, and those entitlements are transferable, so that any entitlements we're not going to be using on the South Campus will be transferred to the North Campus. And in terms of economic development, both for the applicant and the city of El Segundo, we're hopeful that indeed we'll be able to construct office development on that north side in a manner to fully utilize all the entitlements.
So to be clear, what you're saying is the development agreement allows you to move around the floor area ratio. So just because there's a football field here means you can use those entitlements to build something larger somewhere else in the project.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And with that, I'll turn the floor over to Richard Lundquist.
Thanks, Bob. Good evening, Planning Commission. My name is Richard Lundquist, and I am the owner of Continental Development Corporation. And Continental has been headquartered in El Segundo for over 50 years. And I'm very pleased that during that time, We've had the good fortune to develop numerous Class A projects, which I believe have become assets of the city here. And just to clarify one quick thing that Bob mentioned, not only are we able to transfer development rights to the north portion, but the additional acreage purchased from Raytheon, they're keeping most of those development rights so they can build more on their campus. So most likely it'll be built to the same level, and I think there's numerous benefits to the Chargers. Continental Development and our partner Mar Ventures are before you tonight to present for your review and approval the new corporate headquarters and training facility for the Chargers. The 14-acre site is a former parking lot. Neighbors will include Raytheon and our Nash Street Exchange, which was mentioned earlier, which is medical, retail, and restaurant development that's currently under construction. And I also want to thank Raytheon, because without Raytheon, we wouldn't be here tonight, because they had no requirement to sell us the additional 3 acres. But they did that, which enables the Chargers to come to El Segundo. Upon the development of the Chargers facility, headquarters, and practice fields, El Segundo will be the only city in America that will house a professional football, professional basketball, and professional hockey team. I would like to thank everyone at Continental Development and Mar Ventures for reaching this point. We are here tonight to answer any questions, and Bob will be the moderator for Continental. I also want to acknowledge the city staff for their collaboration and hard work in putting this before you this evening. I want to thank Gensler Architectural Firm, and specifically Ron Turner and the Gensler Sports for the outstanding work in designing the Chargers' new home, which will be presented to you in a few minutes, and I think it's going to be a spectacular facility that will bring raves to the city. Also here this evening is the general contractor for the project, PCL, and their lead, Eric Moline. Finally, I want to thank the Chargers. They had numerous choices in where to locate. They chose El Segundo, and that speaks volumes. I'm grateful to the Lakers and the Kings that have welcomed the Chargers to this city. These sports powerhouses in El Segundo contribute to the schools and the recreational facilities. And the Chargers, I know, and speaking with them, are excited to become an active member of the community. With that, I would like to thank Fred Moss, the Chief of Staff for the Los Angeles Chargers, who is responsible for the day-to-day business functions for the team and reports to Chairman Dean Spanos. Fred called the plays that have gotten us to this point today. I would ask Fred to say a few words, followed by Ron Turner from Gensler Sports. Fred, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lindquist. And thank you, as always, for your years of support and generosity to our community.
Thank you.
How many of those do we have?
A lot.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Fred Mass. As Richard said, I'm Chief of Staff and Counselor to the Los Angeles Chargers. I'd like to also introduce some special guests we have with us. Also joining me is Jeannie Bonk, who's sitting in the back row there, who's really the hub of the Chargers organization. She's the Chief Operating Officer and Chief Financial Officer of the organization. She's been with the team for, God, better part of 30 years. I think she was like 12 when she started. But she's been here, and she's been instrumental to our success. Also with me is Philip Rule. Philip's mother, Alexis Spanos Rule, is one of our owners. Philip is not only representing ownership, but also has been instrumental in getting to this point, and we're very grateful for everything he did for us. On behalf of our principal owner and chairman, Dean Spanos, and the Spanos family, I want to say thank you all and tell you what an honor it is to be here. You know, in a previous life, I was both a real estate developer and also served as an appointee, much like yourselves down in San Diego. And I've had the real honor and distinction of being involved in a number of projects over the years. But I don't think I've ever been more proud of a project than this one. Both the team we've assembled, Richard and Alex and Bob, the Mar folks, PCL, Gensler and others, it's been an extraordinary journey for us to come to the place we are today. But we're equally proud to be part of this city and part of this incredible place. You know, I started in January of 2017 to try and find an appropriate location. And the first place I came to was El Segundo. And we looked at a number of dormant facilities. We looked at a bunch of the defense contractors and opportunities, and frankly just couldn't find anything. And then here we are, fast forward 2 or 3 years later, and welcome back to El Segundo. We knew about the business environment here. Our friends, the Lakers and Kings, are incredible ombudsmen and representatives of this city, and it just seems to be a blessing to be here and be part of this incredible project. I think what this team that we've assembled have done and what the Gensler people have created, I think will bring life to what the Los Angeles Chargers mean to LA, but also what the NFL will mean to El Segundo. And I think it will be an incredible compliment to the amazing partnerships you've had with the Lakers and Kings, and we're just really excited to be part of this community. You know, it is part of the fabric of the Spanos family and the Chargers organization to not just be here and not just come to work every day and not just participate on the football field, training and getting ready for our Sundays, but really integrating into the community and be part of charitable causes and other things. We've got our Chargers Impact Fund, which gives literally millions of dollars throughout Los Angeles County, Orange County, and San Diego counties, and we're really looking forward to begin to work day to day with some of the local communities and needs here. So it's an exciting opportunity. We're very grateful. Again, as a former appointed official, I know the dedication, hard work you put in for very no pay and very little credit. So thank you very much for your service, and we look forward to ongoing, continue working with you all. So thank you. Ron?
Good evening, Chairman Baldino, Commissioners. It's really exciting. I get to say the great stuff about this project because it was a real dream to design this project. Working with the Chargers, working with CDC. CDC is a client of ours and many projects, and then being able to bring those together and the real inspiration that the Chargers gave to this project. They really care a lot about it. It's their home. We're doing numerous of these kind of buildings for NFL teams, and this is where they live. They don't live in the stadium. They live in this building daily. Someone mentioned how long will people be there. Some of these coaches stay long hours in that building. So that sort of inspiration and fun part of what we do is really cool. We do stadiums too, but honestly, these buildings are the ones that have the heartbeat that we really love to talk about. So we're gonna start here. We've been looking at this all night long, the Nash Street extension. I think one of the cool things is the Green Line location, and as a result of the Nash Street extension, there will be a really nice sidewalk and a lot of landscaping that will come all the way from that station and connect this entire site together, even beyond and onto the Hughesway, which is really, I think, going to be an amazing thing for the city. Not only the transportation side of it that you just mentioned, but that's a really great thing. This is a close-up view, and I'm happy to answer some of the questions that you might have had about this. This was a very tight site. As you can see, we're in order to get 347 parking spaces on the site, in order to get 3 full football fields, which the team needs. You can imagine practicing. These are grass, natural turf fields, and so they move from field to field, and different portions of their team practice each day on different fields. We have the ability to turn the fields if we need to as well, so that areas that wear out through the season, they're able to repurpose them. So that's the reason that they have to kind of all be level and flat. It was kind of a challenge. I mean, there's a 20-foot drop from the west to the east on this site. And we worked really hard with Mar Ventures, with KPFF, to get that site so that we had a balance of dirt. So we're not taking dirt off or bringing dirt in a big way, because then it was a challenge. Because you can imagine our building and the 3 fields all need to be at the same level, because we want the team to be able to come out of the practice facility and the training area directly onto the field and not have to go down stairs or ramps or any of that sort of thing. It's dangerous when you're on cleats. So that was really a trick that took quite a bit of time for us to all sort out and figure out how that was going to work. So when we talk about the fence and how the building and everything has to sit on the property, we tried many different schemes, and this is the one that really works in order to get it to happen. Well, as a result, we do have a metro line next to us. And, you know, the team is only out there a couple of hours. The collective bargaining agreement really states that they only are on the field a couple of hours a day. So there is a way that we can put a screen up and we can take the screen down, and it only needs to be there a couple of hours a day. So there, you know, I think you shouldn't worry too much about that. We can create that in a way that it's beautiful as well, and not going to be an eyesore to the community. So let's go to the next one. So this gives you an overview from a perspective standpoint. You can see the lush landscaping we're trying to do around the building along Nash, and really make it a beautiful piece of the city as well. I mean, having these beautiful fields there all the time, and they will be natural turf, and so it'll be a really beautiful building and site to drive by. So as I take you around the building, we're going to start at the front. This is the west side. So you notice on this side, we don't have a lot of windows. And so this is a really conscious building in terms of the environment, in terms of energy, all those things. We will design it such that it will probably easily achieve a LEED Silver status. And so, as you can see, we're not many windows on this side. We do have a major lobby, which is about 2.5 stories high. We have a large screen that we are putting into the lobby on one wall, and it comes out just a little bit. 99% of it is inside the building. And that is the main entrance for the public, for the press. You come in the lobby, to the left is where the press would do the press conferences with the team. And then we have a grand stair that takes you to all 3 levels in the building, so you don't have to necessarily go up an elevator as well. And so that all is what's happening in the lobby. So as we move around to the next side, now you're looking from Nash, looking west and south. And so you notice that on these elevations, we have a lot more glass. So it's one thing, we really want to open up the building to the city, to the fields, so that they have great view of the fields. We have a lot of operable glass in this building, so that we're bringing natural air into the building. Obviously, when we've got players like this of a high caliber, performance is what this building is all about. And to have that great performance, we need to have natural air, we need a lot of light. All those things are the things that really get the circadian rhythm of these players to get at the best performance, optimal performance, which is what the building is really all about. So the first level of that is all about performance. You can see even where we have the weight room in the foreground here, the doors actually lift up. Players are inside, outside, which is really going to be a great opportunity for them to restore if they're doing rehab and those kinds of things. That all occurs on that lower level, straight out from the locker room, comes straight out to the field. Second level is where all of the coaches are to the right and in this picture, and to the left, the meeting rooms for all the teams. So they're only a couple hours on the field, but there are a lot of hours in the meeting rooms. This is an educational building in reality. That's where they really spend their time looking at film and really preparing for the game of that week. The third floor is administrative on the left side. On the right side is more of a VIP area for their sponsors and for season ticket holders that they intend to bring and give them the opportunity with the grand balconies that we have in the building on this side. They can come and they can watch practice if they like. So this is I think what they've said to us is, let's make this a building that feels like it's part of the community. Let's make it feel like it opens to the community and we're not insulating ourselves back. And I think we've kind of achieved that. The inspiration of the building, as you can kind of see, is from the Bolt. That's those angular kinds of things are what we really picked up on with the Bolt, which is one of the most iconic symbols in the NFL. And so that we've carried through in each elevation, as you see when we go around. You see the angularity of what's happening. And then we have two more final. So this is a Bruxelles, we call it, and this is on the end where the meeting rooms are and where the administrative is on the third floor. And then we have a shade device there because this is on the south, so that we shade that glass on the south as well. As I said, this is very, very energy conscious building. We as a firm are committed to that, and that's what we do, and we design all of our buildings. So, and this is again, this is the front where you see it sort of at twilight or at nighttime. It'll be a really welcoming, I think a really welcoming, beautiful vision to this development, to your city, and is going to be something we're all going to be really proud of. We're excited to see it happen.
It's a beautiful building.
Oh, thank you very much.
I mean, doesn't need to be said. It's truly amazing.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Mr. Turner, the previous slide,
Yes.
the plaza, is that open to the public, or do you have to get through the gates, any security fences to get to this particular area?
No, that would be open. The building won't be open all the time, but yes. I mean, there is a fence around the property, but mostly the fields and the places where the team parks, that's where the security line would take place.
Gotcha.
This is where a public would park, where the people coming to the building would park here.
You could get off the metro and walk down to this little plaza.
You could. You
Cool.
can, absolutely. Yeah. Any other questions?
Thank
Okay.
you, sir.
Thank you.
Again, we're up here to answer any questions that the commissioners may wish to pose of us, and I'll try to field the questions, and if I'm not able to, try to direct the questions to one of our appropriate team members who can answer with more specificity than I might be able to. So,
You know, it wasn't long ago that we were here talking about Topgolf, and I was looking at the line of sight from the driving range, which sort of looks right at your lights of the stadium, and I just wondered if that was going to be an issue at all for the golfers, for people teeing off at night.
I got to be honest, I'm not certain as to the direction in which the golfers in the Topgolf facility will be teeing off from. I've been in Topgolf facilities and they're enclosed, and I can't imagine there'd be any impact, but I don't have enough details about Topgolf to answer intelligently.
And it's probably not an issue. It's just that it's a direct line of sight right down the driving range to your very tall lights. So, and again, it's probably not an issue. I'm just tossing it out there.
Okay.
Jay, you're talking about night golf on the course.
Well, that could be as well. But definitely from the driving range. It's just a straight shot.
You're going to make them put more nets up now. What are you doing?
Yeah, well, there's that, right. Great.
It's like the one spot we could see everything. Now it's... Did you have a question, Kevin?
Yeah, I'll ask the question that I asked to staff. And again, I know that you guys are a private business, and you know we were talking about park access. Would you be willing to make available some of the fields for you know, community events or you know local sport activities? I don't know, whatever they may be.
As Fred mentioned, the Chargers are active members in the community. I can't speak on their behalf, and we're a couple of years away from having a facility out there, so I'm not really able to speak with specifics at this point in time.
Can you speak to what type of access the public would have? If you're not a season ticket holder, are there plans to have events to invite the public to open practices, or is it really going to be more of like a closed facility for training and nutrition and for the athletes?
Why don't we do this? Fred, would you like to?
Whether it would be different or similar as the Kings or the Lakers facility is, yeah.
So we are principally closed for the most part, both for security reasons and just protection of our players and the environment. Will there be occasional events where the public will be invited, encouraged to come? Sure, I certainly envision that. Whether, we at some point are considering putting in, a hall of fame, if you will, and there might be opportunities for people to come in and stroll through. I could envision people wanting to take tours of the building on a very limited basis. But for the most part, it's for our own security and protection of the players, it really is a limited facility and will be closed most of the time.
Oh, that's fine.
Any other questions?
If I can kind of add to that, kind of separate but related to that, we in El Segundo, we feel very strongly about our community. And, I heard some things about, a foundation that you guys have. I think you mentioned it earlier, but it wasn't specific to El Segundo. I think that, if you guys do move into our city, we would welcome you into our community with open arms. We really would. We've done that with our other sports franchises, and we've done that with all of our big businesses. We see our business community as part of our overall community, and we have strong ties to the Lakers, the Kings, LA Times, Raytheon, Chevron. We work really well. We see it as part of our overall community. What are the Chargers' basic fundamental kind of philosophy on working with the community and really giving back to the community that they reside in?
Well, we've got, as I mentioned earlier, a long and rich history going back to our earliest days, before the Spanos owned the team. We're one of the few teams that go back to 1960, originally in Los Angeles, and then migrated down to San Diego. We've had, and still have ongoing activities there, but principally our activities have been in the local area. And we've got, a number of things that we're doing all throughout Los Angeles. We were involved in the Saturday Night Lights program in the city of Los Angeles, and we've funded computers in Inglewood. We've been involved in building fields all across LA. We've been involved with veterans causes. We've been working with an organization and an animal welfare platform, and had a dog that we've sponsored that was ultimately going to go into a wounded warrior family. We've been involved in a number of things. We have several tenants that are part of the organization. We give annual grants out to a variety of schools. We were involved in something called the Bolt Academy with the Brotherhood Crusade, where we sponsored a bunch of children from the Inglewood School District. We're looking to expand that, who actually participated in a competitive process. Those that were selected and participated through the educational process got to work. They work at our stadium now. So we took 14 kids from Inglewood, and so they work as game day interns. It's been an incredible opportunity and program. There have been a number of social justice programs that we've been involved with. So the answer is, once we get here and get anchored, we will, absolutely be. It's an important part of the culture of not just our team, but of the family. And it's always been part of going back to Alex Spanos and what he believed. So it's something we're really looking forward to. So I think, the opportunities, I think, are limitless over a long period of time.
Okay, thank you for that. I appreciate that. I think that you guys are a high-profile organization, being an NFL team, and I think that you guys have a lot of impact, a lot of potential impact for the overall Southern California area, but specifically to the city of El Segundo. And I think that we would do our best to leverage that and work with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't want to discount the power of the NFL and what they bring. Their own grant program, their own causes that they're involved with. I think that will become part of the broader umbrella of the Los Angeles Chargers.
Thank
Okay?
So who are you going to appoint to discuss the public park option in all of this? Is that a Raytheon representative? Is that,
Commissioner, with all due respect, I mean, the scope of what we're here to look at this evening relates to our specific project. We don't own that land. We don't have that land under contract, and we're not able to speak on behalf of Raytheon.
so then it'll be Ms. Murray on the Zoom? Is that the Raytheon representative?
All I can say is your concerns are duly noted. We recognize that, and we look forward to advancing our project to council, and if need be, discussing it further. We can discuss it further.
Okay. Who can I talk to at this public hearing about the issue? Is it Ms. Murray, the Raytheon representative on Zoom?
Yes,
Yeah, we do have a representative from
Yeah.
Raytheon.
We just have to get her back on the Zoom, I think.
can you hear me? I am on the Zoom.
We can, we just can't see you yet, sorry. There you are.
All right.
Okay, yes, we can hear you. So I have some questions about Phase 3 and the amendment to the development agreement, which says, once we transfer the open space from parcel 11 to 10, that triggers a 30-day obligation to dedicate the 7.5 acres outside of the security fence for a public park. And I've been told in this meeting that $3 million is a request for Raytheon. Well, first, the two projects.
Excuse me, if I could clarify real
Sure.
quick. The community benefit, the $3 million that's been referenced this evening, is a contribution from the applicant, CDC MAR, and the Los Angeles Chargers.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, so you assumed the development agreement for Phase 2, and you're here for the Chargers, understood. We have another application from Raytheon on their storage facility, which is in Phase 4, and part of your application is to move that road, which triggers the need to transfer the open space in parcel 11 onto parcel 10, which then triggers section 9.2, which says within 30 days of approval of the land transfer of the open space off of parcel 11, the developer, which in this case is Raytheon, because they own Phase 3 and they own Phase 4, must record a 20-year irrevocable offer of dedication of 7.54 acres of recreational open space to the city of El Segundo in a form approved by the city attorney for future potential park purposes. And it talks about parcels 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 13, and 14. So parcels 1, 2, 3, 4 are in Phase 3, right? Phase 4 is within the secure area within Raytheon. So if there ever were to be a public accessible park, it would have to be in Phase 3, I imagine. So my question is, if the agreement requires 30 days after approval of this land transfer, then where in this agreement or all this presentation is the talk about this irrevocable offer of dedication of the land from Raytheon?
So I think there might be a little bit of confusion around the development agreement terms and the existing private park and the obligation to either dedicate or make the private park accessible to all of the employees. So as we currently stand today, there's no existing right in the development agreement to use Raytheon's existing private park, but Raytheon has accommodated the city's desire to use the park in the past. That's been going very well, and Raytheon has further agreed to enter into this MOU that would continue, that goes to the continued use of the existing private park by the city. So, sort of separate and aside from that, which is the city's use of the existing park, is the park obligation in the development agreement, and it's a two-part obligation. So when there's further development in Phase 3 or Phase 4, Raytheon would either dedicate a park or dedicate the land for a park to the city, and the city would construct that park. And if Raytheon elected that option, the dedication option, that dedication would be outside of the secure perimeter because it wouldn't make sense for the city to have a public park that the city developed inside the secure perimeter. The other option is for Raytheon to open the private park to all of the campus employees. And that would not be a public park. That would be a park just for campus employees. So that's the park obligation in the development agreement, which is separate and apart from the city's use of the existing park pursuant to the MOU. And I apologize if that's clear to everyone, but there seemed to be some confusion this evening about those two, how those two things play together.
No, I understand they're completely separate. The offer to enter into the agreement to use the facilities, in my understanding, is a short-term fix until we go into the next phase. And then that's when we're supposed to discuss where this park is going to be, the public park.
If Raytheon elects the dedication option, correct. So
Okay.
if Raytheon elects to dedicate the land to the city to build a public park, that
Right.
would be the point in time when that conversation would be had about where that dedication would occur.
Well, my issue is that if this gets approved and we do transfer the open space off of parcel 11 onto parcel 10, which is part of this, what we're being asked to do, that triggers section 9.2. So that obligation is going to be triggered as soon as this is approved within 30 days. It's not an option anymore because you are asking us as part of this application to reallocate what's already zoned as open space recreation on parcel 11 to now go to parcel 10 when you move the road. So,
Chairman, if I might, just to be clear, if the council approves this, it will move that trigger into the future.
right.
So if the council approved this, then this wouldn't get triggered until the next project came in. I just want to clarify, that's not, if this doesn't get approved, or if the council doesn't like what's being proposed, they can say, no, if you want this project to go forward, you're going to have to dedicate the park land now.
So that we're clear, what we're being asked to do is take an obligation that they would have immediately within 30 days of approval and postpone it indefinitely until they decide to maybe do the next project.
That is correct.
Okay, that's what we're being asked to do as part of this agreement. So we already have the agreement saying they have to do it within 30 days. And what they're saying is we want to wait on building Continental Road. And are we also not doing the connection to Coral Avenue? Is that not part of this? We're just doing,
The only thing that will be done as part of this will be the Nash Street connection. The others will be put off in the future. You're absolutely correct.
okay, so the connection to Coral Circle will be postponed. The road, the public road on Continental will be postponed. And the dedication and location of that park will be postponed at a location to be determined somewhere on this site.
You're correct.
And there is no obligation in any of these documents or agreements that obligates them to ever do another project. So there's a strong potential we'll never get this park if they decide not to sell or develop further.
I will say correct, other than the word strong, I can't handicap what the development, how attractive that might be based upon the value of the land or people that want to come in and develop it. But otherwise, you're correct.
Okay, so it's basically a risk we're taking on that if we agree to this, to get the chargers in, to allow Raytheon to build their storage containers in phase 4, based on their representations that, okay, we'll deal with this next time we come back to you.
That's correct.
All right.
Forgive me if I'm wrong, but I feel like what you're getting at, and maybe this is part of discussion, is there another option other than just approve or deny?
Well, first, I think I'd also recommend that the rest of the public get allowed to speak, because you're getting into a discussion, but the answer to your question is yes. And the commission should voice all of your concerns and comments this evening, and your recommendation as to whether you like what's being proposed or not, whether you recommend approval of the council, or you recommend denial, or recommend, you could recommend either way, but then throw in a bunch of comments about what would change your mind, if you will. And that will all move forward to the council so they can consider that, which is your role, is to tell the council how you feel about this project.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Murray, as the representative for Raytheon, are you aware or have any knowledge of future development of Phase 3 or any other projects?
In terms of it ever happening or being in the immediate queue, I couldn't handicap it, but certainly, you know, the intent of the specific plan is to allow for development in Phase 3 and Phase 4, and I couldn't tell you the timing on that.
Okay. All right, any other questions for the applicants, I should say? All right, well, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you all. I would just urge you, given the timing constraints that we're all under to deliver a facility, that if you have any kind of additional angst, we move it on to the council and allow us to please proceed forward with the project. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now is the time for public well, we're already in the public hearing. We have two requests. Do you want to make a statement? Okay. We have two other statement cards, so go ahead and walk up and tell us your name.
Yeah, I will go ahead and call, let's see, Craig Garrett.
Good evening to the esteemed Planning Commission. My Carpenter brothers and I would like to thank you for this time. I'd also like to thank the Chargers for passing so much this season. Your quarterback is on my fantasy team. My name is Craig Garrett. I'm the aerospace business agent for the Boeing, Raytheon, and Millennium companies here in El Segundo. I've been a proud working union carpenter in the city of El Segundo for the last 28 years. El Segundo is an aerospace town, but what most people don't know is it's a carpenter union town. All 900 hourly employees at these sites, Boeing, Raytheon, and Millennium, are union carpenters. We're proud of our city, where we work, and we're thankful that our city understands that it needs to have skilled and educated union workers so things are built to last on time and under budget. I'm here to elaborate on the importance of the new Chargers Training Center being built by union carpenters. Our brothers go through the most extensive training in the industry. The curriculum is world-renowned and second to none. I'm confident that the city of El Segundo will honor its time-honored tradition of employing the best workers to build this important project and keep the tradition of having projects built by union carpenters. It's vital and intrinsic to this community and project that we do this the right way and have this built by men and women of skill, pride in their workmanship. So the Southwest Regional Council of Carpenters and the 900 El Segundo Aerospace Union Carpenters implore this council to move forward with this project with all our support and appreciation. We live here, we work here, we own homes here, we raise our families here, and we want to build here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up, I have Rafael Pimentel.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for taking the time to listen to us. I am a union carpenter, and I am also a special representative for the Southwest Regional Council of Carpenters. I represent over 60,000 union carpenters in the Southwest Regional Council of Carpenters. And Fred talked about the amazing team that CDC has put together, Mar Ventures, and the LA Chargers. What an amazing team, huh? Done a great job, staff, and everybody else. But I'm here to talk about the amazing and incredible and skilled and trained workforce, the team that will build this project. I'm talking about the union carpenters. We want to talk about a skilled and trained workforce and local hire. We have over 1,000 members that live in this community and work in this community. And we're asking you that we stand in support of this project being built. We stand with Continental Development and with Mar Ventures, and we ask you that you would please push this project forward to City Council for final approval. Thank you for your time, and have a nice evening.
Thank you. All right, is there anyone else who wishes to make any public comments on this agendized item? Now would be your time to do so. microphone is clean and ready. All right, not seeing anyone. Oh, yeah, on
Let's-
Zoom, thank you.
Yeah, let's go ahead and turn that over to Zoom. Now, this will be a little unique because I do see a lot of hands raised. There's about 10 of them, so
Are there names that you
let's
can
see, there
call
are
out?
names and phone numbers. We'll start with the easy ones. Albert Duarte has his hand raised, so let's have him speak first.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Good evening, commissioners, and we really do appreciate your service. And welcome to the city of Los Angeles, officially from the Ironworkers to the Chargers. We appreciate everything you're doing here. My name is Albert Duarte, and I do represent the Ironworkers. We have 2,800 ironworkers here locally. So what could be more important than protecting the middle class? With a facility like this, a career in the trades provides stability, security, and a path forward. It provides real strength to any project when the workforce comes from the surrounding communities. To the Planning Commission, please consider when you're making this decision. We fully support the Chargers and the future of the Chargers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Duarte.
Okay, now that we got that one out of the way, I'm gonna move from left to right on my screen here. So I have I'm gonna ask them to unmute. It's a 626 number, 435. I won't go any further with that phone number.
Good evening. My name is Samuel Nieto. I live nearby. I'm a big fan of the NFL, and I would love to see a team make their home and training facilities here in El Segundo to a point. I think with a franchise like this comes big money, and so benefits for the locals should follow. I think we should hear more about that from the developers who know how their project will impact us residents. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, next up on my screen, I have a 310 area code phone number, 310-346.
Three 346. We're waiting for your comments.
I'm asking them to unmute themselves. Okay, well, let's move on to the next one. I have an 818 area code, 818-310. I will ask them to unmute right now. All right.
Good evening, everyone.
There we go.
My name is Yukon Sanders. I'm a person of faith and a community leader, not far from here. The thing that's at stake with the developments like this is that we are in a building boom. And yet local people across LA who work in the construction field still struggle. And when that happens, whole communities can falter and crumble. We all know that. We need now more than ever strong communities where people do meaningful work. I ask you humbly, members of the commission and all else listening, please help us. Thank you, that's my time.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, moving on to the next one. Let's see, I have another 626 area code, 626-472. I'll ask that person to unmute and feel free to speak.
Hello, good evening. My name is Jasiri. I live nearby, and as a young person and student in this community, I want to be sure that projects this big are being reviewed properly. What impacts will this have on the local traffic flow, and what about the construction's impact on our commute or on the air quality? People need to keep in mind or be informed if projects are being undertaken. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to the next one. I have a 323 area code phone number, 323-237. I'm gonna ask that person to unmute.
Hello, everyone. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hey, good evening, everyone. My name is Ray, and I'm a leader at the Anchor Church of Los Angeles. We have many members in our congregation who are members of the skilled construction trades. They are my brothers and sisters. They work hard in many cases to overcome previous life challenges and build lives with intention and purpose. Their careers help them through that. Please remember the average people who need these careers, and please consider their livelihoods. Thank you for your time. Good night, and God bless you guys.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna go on to a 909 number, 909-285. I'm gonna ask you to unmute.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks for being here tonight. My name is Brian Germain. I'm a representative of Sheet Metal Workers Union, Local 105. We feel we must speak up because of the scope of what's at stake with this development for El Segundo. Simply, we in the skilled trades would recognize the importance of this project, but we also hope to see the construction utilize local hire and prioritize responsible contractors who will build to the highest standards so that everyone benefits. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Next one, I have a 626 area code. That's 626-278. I'll ask you to unmute.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hi, thank you for being here so late. I really appreciate it. My name is Sean Silva, and I'm speaking as a representative of CREED LA tonight. CREED is a community group, and we stand for and support responsible development. For us, community benefits rank among the most important parts of a project after environmental sustainability, which is our focus. The virtue of a project is whether the surrounding region, rich or poor, can ascertain a clear benefit from the project's presence. We believe that the project at hand, which is an office and a training center for the Chargers of considerable size, with 3 full-size fields, plenty of parking, this is a project that adds to El Segundo, no doubt about it. It would be fantastic, however, if the developers were willing to consider just what it would mean to residents and neighbors to have strong workforce development provisions as well. We've heard a lot about the things they want to bring to the community and the community benefits, and this is certainly one of those things that we believe fits into that category. Comparing this to the recent construction of SoFi Stadium, for instance, which utilized local hire in its construction, the precedent is clear. This is a good idea. And the members of the community whose careers in construction can be and should be prioritized when choosing the workforce. Imagine for a moment if the people who built this were local fans, local football fans, and people who lived in the area. We believe that every project gives back. This would be a great way for the developers to do just that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Great. Next up, I have a 310 area code, 310-686. I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Good evening. Thank you. My name is Carmen, and I am a lifelong resident. I want to thank you all for being here tonight. I am commenting because, like others in the community, I want to make sure that this development happens in an equitable way, with an emphasis not just on the project itself, but on the impact for the kids, families, and working people around here. It is important that people like us take the time to be here. I want to make sure we are heard. Thanks for listening. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Great. Let's see. Next, I have a 562 area code phone number. Phone number is 562-896. I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Gus Torres, and I represent UA Local 250 pipe fitters, welders, and apprentices. Thank you all for being here tonight. We in the skilled trades appreciate a chance to make statements advocating for ourselves. Because people need to know choosing to use a skilled workforce hired locally and give good wages and benefits to the workforce is the best way to ensure a good project. I'm here tonight as a member of the trades and also a member of the community to ask you to please keep people like me in mind. Thank you for your time and God bless.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have a name, Godfrey. I'll ask you to unmute.
Good evening. My name is Godfrey Washira. I'm also with Creed LA. We believe in equitable development. That's development that supports, promotes, and serves the community. The Chargers have listed an impressively long list of community organizations that they've worked with, and it's really impressive community engagement. We hope that they can add workforce development groups for this project to that list. I think the developers should engage community groups to ensure that all jobs in the construction phase, and not just the carpenters, but all the different skilled trades, are offered middle-class wages with benefits. At least if the public can't enjoy the facilities, which is understandable, then at least pay them well to build the facilities. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, I got one last raised hand, and it is a 310 area code. It's 310-346. I'll ask you to unmute, please.
Good evening, all. My name is Desiree, and I'm speaking today to take a stand for what's right. Projects like this need to show strong commitment to the neighborhood, aside from occasionally letting people go on the field for events here and there. As fun as it may be to have an NFL franchise in town, we need to focus on the practical stuff. We need only local construction workers and contractors. We need them to remain in contact with us about changes in their plans. Please, please reconsider before approving this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we had a couple more join in, raising their hands. I got a Josh. I'll go ahead and ask you to unmute.
Hi, Joshua Brexton. Congratulations on getting the Chargers. Big time fan. One request that I'd ask is that if you guys could make it so that you have access from the subway station along the east side of the property, since you only have 378 parking spots, it would be nice if people could actually get there from the train rather than just driving. Thank you very much, and congrats.
Thank you, Josh. I believe when they build the Nash Road, it'll have a sidewalk that you can walk from the Green Line to the
I
venue.
appreciate it. 75 minutes from my home.
All right, thank you, sir.
Okay, I got another raised hand, and it's a 213 number, 213-479. I'll ask you to unmute too, please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Hugh Martinez. This project is a big deal with the building over 100,000 square feet and several full-size athletic fields. I hope we know what we are approving. It seems like the city is already moving forward with its plan, but if there's still room, I say we should see more outreach to the community from the developers. Thank you for your time. Good night, and go Chargers.
Thank you.
Okay, there's no more raised hands, but you want to give another few seconds for anyone who else who wants to?
Yeah, I think we have some time until Commissioner Holschuler comes back.
Okay.
So we can wait. Since we're still in public communication, I have one more question for Raytheon. Emily Murray, if you're still with us.
I am, yes.
Hi, thank you. So my question is, with this issue of the 7.5 acre allocation outside the perimeter, is Raytheon willing to decide now where that land will be in phase 3? Since we're modifying the zones anyway, doesn't it make sense to cross that bridge now so that there's no obstacle a year from now, 3 years from now?
So again, it's either dedicate land or open the internal park to the entire campus. And I don't believe that Raytheon has even chosen between those two options. So I don't think, and the other Raytheon folks who are on the call can unmute themselves if they are aware otherwise, but I don't think Raytheon is prepared at this point in time to identify the location for dedication if Raytheon in the future should elect to pursue that.
Has Raytheon explored whether or not it can move its perimeter fence to the exterior of that road to allow public access to the fields in the interim?
So I think the existing park that's subject to the MOU for the city and city folk use is also used primarily by Raytheon personnel during the day. So the MOU provides for the public to use it evenings and weekends and AYSO soccer games and other uses. For the primary purpose that it serves right now, which is used by Raytheon campus employees, it makes sense for it to be within the secure perimeter.
Okay, we are moving your security fence in order to build the new Nash Road extension, correct?
Yes, that fence is moving closer into the Raytheon campus for the Nash Road extension, correct?
And I understand due to the secrecy of what you guys do, the client, the federal government, requires you to have a secure perimeter, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. So has there been any discussions in Raytheon about whether or not the federal government would allow you to move that perimeter fence so that that park area would be accessible?
So no, again, because the primary use is for the Raytheon employees, it makes, for Raytheon's primary use of that park right now, it makes sense for it to be within the secure perimeter and used by Raytheon employees who are themselves within the secure perimeter when they're there for their workday.
Okay. Thank you for that. Appreciate the follow-up.
Thank you.
All right, last call for public communication. Do we have anyone on Zoom? We've gone through that?
No more raised hands. We're good.
Okay, all right, so we'll go ahead and close public communication. Thank you, everyone, for your comments. All further comments shall come from the dais. Who would like to start our discussion?
I would just like to have clarity amongst ourselves to talk about the use of the recreation facilities in the development agreement. What does it actually mean for the community of El Segundo?
Well, I recall in August of 2019, when Raytheon wanted to go from just having 2 phases to a multiple phase structure, which we agreed to, there was a great deal of discussion about this public park benefit.
No, I understand you, Ryan, but I mean, in this development agreement, what does it mean when, they had that mock-up of a contract that's usable, that that the city, through the Recreation and Parks Department, can actually offer a class, or they can use it for something?
Oh, logistically, how's it going to work?
How does that work, and what does it mean for the community of El Segundo?
Since Raytheon started asking for changes in entitlement,
Right.
they have been working more with the community to offer more benefits and be more involved in the community, right? Part of that was helping with our lack of field space for
Right.
Little League and the Challengers. We lost our Challenger field and our rookie field when we developed D.R. Horton.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So they have been, without any written agreement, allowing youth sports to use their facilities.
On their fields, inside of the perimeter?
Yes, you have to go through a security gate and tell them, I'm here for whatever event, and they say, okay, please go park over there. I think they
So
check your trunk.
Is that what's in the development agreement for our El Segundo's use to expand the use of that facility?
I think they're
what's
going to
written?
put it in writing, and they're going to have meetings to help try to schedule those uses when
Through the
Raytheon is
Recreation and
not,
Parks
when
Department.
Raytheon employees are not using it, how can we get more
Evenings and weekends?
evening and weekends? How can we get it for practices and things like the like?
And they're releasing some of the stringent strictness, and they would like, and they're being amenable to a conversation to allow the city of El Segundo and its residents to use it through the Recreation and Parks Department.
No, there's no drop-off use, meaning if you're not in an organized team and have a scheduled event, you can't just, as a
Right.
resident, go, I want to go hang out at the park.
But it's city event. It's through the Recreation and Parks Department.
Yes, yes.
Scheduled soccer.
So
or
adult
whatever.
league softball, maybe. I know personally, in my experience, I've been there with the Challenger League. They've used the Raytheon field, but I'm not aware of what else is being.
So that's the only real benefit to the community.
That is what Raytheon is offering in exchange for an agreement not to build
Right.
Continental, not to build the extension through Coral, and not to identify and dedicate 7.5 acres of parkland,
Right.
which are obligations I believe are triggered under section
Yeah, you
9.3.
made that clear, and I do remember that conversation from sitting.
So they're
with-
asking
yeah.
us just to kind of postpone that until the next development, which is some point in the future, maybe.
I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, on that, so one of my concerns is that it's indefinite. That if they pay the $3 million, there's no time limit, there's no statute of limitations that say, okay, once you pass X amount of time, then you have to donate more money. Another thing that kind of has me a little boggled is the fact that, I mean, this is a Raytheon requirement, but it's being paid for by the Chargers team instead. So we can't go back to the Chargers team and say, hey, you have to put in more money because you've taken such a long time, when it's actually Raytheon's requirement. I would like to see some time limit put on where they have to either develop the land and include, the park space, or they have a time limit on when they have to just do the park space just straight out, even if they don't develop, they're not ready for phase 3 and 4. Is there something that we can do that would require that? And I guess that's a question for the city attorney.
We'll take all these comments forward to council. I mean, whatever the will of the commission is that you want communicated to the council, if your strong sentiment is that this needs to include a enforceable commitment to have this park space dedicated, either now or within a certain number of years, then we'll make that very clear to the council that that's the commission's position.
Okay. And maybe my fellow commissioners can help me here, and maybe I missed it or I'm misunderstanding, but the reason that Raytheon wants a delay is because they haven't looked at sites yet, or they're just not ready to do it yet.
Well, in 2019, the Raytheon representative told us that it's going to be in phase 3. He was very adamant that's the only place to put it. They've already dedicated a little sliver of land, bless you, next to the park. And he said that's outside the security fence. That's where it makes sense. And so when I saw this for the first time last Friday, after all the conversations we had, I was shocked to see that there was no parkland on this plan. On these zone amendments and track amendments that we're being asked to approve, I think they're contradictory to the language of the amended agreement, because we are reallocating open space land from parcel 11 to parcel 10 in order to move the road, which is fine, but that triggers this obligation, and what we're being asked to do is kind of just forget about that, and we'll do it on the next phase. But you're right, there's no guarantee that that next phase will ever come. They might just enjoy their park and use it, and continue to let certain groups in town use it if you're in a sports group. But 9.3 says the developer acknowledges that under section 9.1 and 9.2, the city's strong preference is that the 7.5 acre recreational open space be located outside the developer's security fence perimeter, so the recreational open space may be accessed by the public, and that land be developed by the developer before the offer of the dedication is incurred. So they could, and what's important for you to know, because you weren't here when we did this, is it was like phase 1, phase 2. So the original idea was the commercial was phase 1, and then everything else was phase 2. And when they got to phase 2, that meant they had to build this road, Nash, they had to build Continental, and they came to us and said, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Raytheon doesn't build roads. So we want to chop it up, and basically they put the burden on Continental and Mar Vista to build the road. You guys are the developers. So they bought those rights. They inherited these obligations to build the connection, and they're going to do that. But because Raytheon is also doing work, and because of this switch in parcels, that triggers a whole bunch of obligations that Raytheon doesn't want to do right now.
Yeah.
And my concern, I believe it's your concern, is there's nothing in here that tells us if that's really going to happen, when it's going to happen, and if it doesn't happen, we lose out on the biggest public benefit for this entire project. And so I'm really concerned that, you know, we say yes and we believe that, yeah, we're going to get that park. You know, maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't.
Yeah, and on top of that, I think I haven't heard a good explanation or a good reasoning of why they want to delay, other than we don't feel like doing it right now.
And Chairman and Commission, I'll just explain this, and City Manager Scott Minnick can jump in if I don't get this accurate. But City Manager and I sat in a number of communications with the developers, and we explained what the history of this project was, the strong sentiment of the Planning Commission, the council in the past. We encouraged them strongly to watch the videotape and read all of the things that had transpired in the past, and how, you know, again, the sentiment of the prior commission, the council, on all these issues. And what we were told was that this project will only move forward this way if their proposal is accepted. Now, again, we're not saying that this is ultimately the council's call, but this is, that's what we were told. So, but we did very strongly explain these issues, and again, encouraged them numerous times to watch all of the prior videos and see what had transpired.
Okay, so the city let Raytheon know that this is important to us. We have an agreement that says this is required, and the response was, you can take this or you can not take this.
That's my understanding of the way the communications went, yes. And Scott?
Mr. Chair and members of the commission, the important thing to remember here is this application is not being driven by Raytheon. This is being driven by CDC and Mar Ventures in order to accommodate the proposed chargers land use. That's the driving force for here. It does have a trigger component because of the way the specific plan and the development agreement work. And in order to make this application work, the community benefit piece is put in place in recognition of delaying that trigger. So that, again, I'm going to go back to a point I made earlier. If this is approved, as it is, or even if it's revised, the park question will have to be answered when there's another project application that triggers phase 3 or 4. At that point in time, the decision will have to be made by Raytheon, or the developer, I suppose, to either provide land for a public park for the city to build, or to dedicate the existing Raytheon Park for the use of the overall development agreement area, right? So those are the triggering events. So if it were not for this proposed application, this decision regarding the park would not be in front of us. But if this is approved, then next time a decision on the park site will have to be made.
But Mr. Minnick, wouldn't another option be they just elect to defer it again to the next time?
If there's a request like that, the city council will have to make that decision. But if you just do the math, eventually they're going to run out of physical land to accommodate a park site.
So that is a great
That's the issue.
point.
That's exactly the issue.
I think phase 3 has, correct me if I'm doing the calc wrong, 22 acres-ish, call it 20 acres. And remind me where the development rights were transferred from. So they're transferred from phase 2 to phase 3. I guess without a plan in front of us, we kind of have to think like a developer and just make some assumptions. Unfortunately, we have a room full of developers who can maybe help us in this exercise. But if you have 20 acres in phase 3 and 7.5 that would have to go there. What is left on, with the transfer of development rights, what is buildable on phase 3? I can pull it up, maybe.
It's zoned half office and half commercial mixed use? Is that what you mean? Or
So,
do you mean
like,
how much?
many square feet, and then
Oh, FAR?
the 0.6 FAR on 13 developable acres.
Well, they can move it all around too. So all the football field FAR can go to the north part, or it can go to phase 3. So it's, you know, it's designed so that they have flexibility on a big building, a small building, or whatever you want. But my concern is, why isn't there already drawn out on here where the park is going to be?
I mean, I guess my fear is that we get to phase 3 and they say, you actually, you know, it's not developable because we don't have enough acreage to build what we need because we're dedicating a park. So
Or-
on the balance, on 13 acres, can you actually physically develop enough of what was approved in the plan to make it financially worthwhile to have a project there?
Well, my concern
Or
is
do
they
have
sell
to
it,
buy- do
they
have
sell it to
buy
someone
land?
else.
Do they have to buy land for the city? I mean, the whole impetus to allow the Raytheon project from the city in the beginning was public benefits for the community, and a park was sort of the deal breaker. That was the thing that this community was looking for.
Yeah, that's section 9.3 that says, you know, if you don't want to give us a park, then we can negotiate a comparable community benefit.
Exactly.
But
Do the math.
tonight we're being asked just to kind of postpone all of these community benefits, the new roads, the 2 new roads and the park, in exchange for the $3 million.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Chair? 120.1.
You know, I love the project. I love that project. Of course, it's the part that triggers it. It's the Raytheon building that needed to be relocated that triggers the conversation that you've so eloquently brought up, Ryan. I mean, I think the El Segundo Charges has a great ring to it. Really, I do. and I like palm trees a lot. So,
I think Mr. Mitnick has a comment, hopefully.
Well, we'll have to get the exact numbers. I was asking the questions. Right now, how many available acres are there to be developed in the remaining phases? And then this will be 13.7, so there'll be a delta of some sort, right? We'll try to get you the exact answer.
Yeah, so for example, the entire Raytheon site measures about 142 acres. As Mr. Minnick said, the 13.77 acres is for the chargers facility, so that leaves us with 128 and a half. From that 120 and a half, I'd have to figure out what phase 1 is, and then we'll subtract that from it. And I can try getting that momentarily.
I mean, we have a parcel map that basically aligns with what phase 3 is, so.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, or I'm sorry, members of the Planning Commission, Planning Commission, sorry. There is a risk in terms of approving this, in terms of lost acreage for a future park. That's true, but there's a trade-off here. So the applicant has come forward and said they have a proposed use. It's an exciting use, yes. Whether it's exciting or not exciting, I guess doesn't matter to staff. For us, does it comply with the specific plan, the zoning, the development agreement, and so on? And it does. We do have to move the road. We have to move that one storage building. That was part of Raytheon. That triggers phase 3 and 4. Yes, there's this park issue. Raytheon is not ready to dedicate another property for the park. It's not ready to dedicate the current park and say that's going to be for the overall use of the site. They're not ready to make that decision. So you do have a choice. There is a trade-off. You need to make that decision. You've heard the pros and cons, and that's what's in front of you. And there is an element of a risk.
On page 152, they said the current park is 16 acres. I think the park takes up all of phase 3. guesstimate. So 7
And I
out
think
of
we'll have-
16.
Right, we will have another trade-off then. Do you have income generating retail and commercial, or do you have a public park?
Well, this is the problem with not resolving this in 2019. You know, Raytheon said it's going to be in phase 3. It's got to be in phase 3. And now here we are, 2021. And Raytheon doesn't know if it's going to be in phase 3, but it can't be anywhere else.
Yeah.
So last time, actually, no, the very, very first time Raytheon came, I believe the Planning Commission approved everything except for the development agreement. I don't know if Mr. King was here. You may remember Mr. Hensley, but we approved all the environmental impacts. We improved the zoning. We thought, you know, 2 million square feet of office space sounds great, a real economic powerhouse, but we didn't feel that Raytheon was stepping up to the plate as far as the community benefit of giving him basically windfall of transferring open space into mixed use space, which they could now sell off for a profit. So here we are on the second amendment, having the same conversation we had in 2019 about the park. We haven't gotten any affirmations, pro, con, or yes, no about whether or not that's going to happen. So what are our options outside of just expressing our general dismay over the situation of what can we do to, because I believe there's a consensus that we love the project. It'd be great to have the Chargers here. And I also have to note, we have a rugby team too. Let's not forget about our rugby team. Okay, so you'll be the fourth guys. Procedurally, what can we do to send this up so the project's not delayed, but also make sure that we're not ending up in a situation that's happened in the past where we're just hoping Raytheon makes good on these promises at some point in the distant future. Because that's kind of how I feel like what they're asking for is, we don't want to do it now, we'll do it later, we don't know when later will be, if ever.
You're correct, and I don't recall if it was Carl Berger sitting here or David King, but there was a lot of discussion about the project, the original project, and there was a lot of discussion. I was at the council meeting, and there was a lot of discussion, and there were a lot of numbers being changed and exchanged, and as I recall, a lot of it was negotiated from the council dais that night. So as far as what you can do, you know, Commissioner Magai had the idea of, you can recommend to the council that they have a trigger. That is, either they dedicate now or they have until some time period in the future, whether that's 5, 10 years, whatever. That, you know, that you're here to recommend to the council what you want to see them do on this issue. And so that is, you know, a potential option. Commissioner Newman raised the issue about not letting the Raytheon portion go forward. The problem is with that, with regard to their application, is that's necessary to move it to make the room for the Chargers facility. So they kind of go hand in hand, if you will. So again, that doesn't mean that the council has to approve anything. Those are just why it's tied together. But with that, I mean, your role is to tell the council what you feel about this and make a recommendation.
You know, I think we're at this point, at least I am. I love the Chargers project. It's great. I just feel like this is the second time we've gotten burned by the Raytheon thing. And I think one of the problems is a lot of the language has had no teeth in it. I mean, 9.3 says the developer acknowledges under section 9.1 and 9.2, the city's strong preference is that these 7.5 acres be located outside the developer's security perimeter, which is great, but it just has no teeth to it. And so, you know, I feel like we're in another one of those situations where we are suggesting and hoping and praying that these 7.5 acres come to the city as a public benefit in some way. So, you know, we're just sort of, we're wishing at this point rather than having any policy in place.
Maybe we could approve as written with a time limit of I don't know what we'll need, 90 days, to have a negotiation with Raytheon to either choose 9.2 and tell us where the 7.5 acres will be in phase 3, or under 9.3, tell us what the alternate public compensation will be, because it's Raytheon's option. They don't have to put a park there, but if they're not going to do that, then they have to negotiate some other type of public benefit. We could put a park on, what's that Hilltop Park, by the pool, you know what I'm talking about, by the water tower? The city's got a big old abandoned building up there, right next to a parking lot.
Parking structure, yeah.
Right? I mean, there's probably, if we thought about it, a couple of areas in town, not located here, that might be good places for a park. I will tell you, I looked up, we just did Acacia Park, right? And the Daily Breeze said that for that half-acre park, it cost the city $850,000 to put a playground.
Just in improvements.
For a half an acre.
Right.
So the costs to develop 7.5 acre park, you just did grass and bathrooms, right? It is going to be well beyond that. It'll be exponentially more. So I like the idea of approving this, but saying we need to know within, well, let me ask this. When will this go to council? Do we have a time when this is going to be sent out?
It's going to be heard by the council on December 7th.
Oh, okay.
That's what it's scheduled for currently, and then with potential second meeting on the 21st.
Okay, so maybe we approve based on the condition that before, I don't know, it's probably not enough time for staff, but you guys don't mind working over Thanksgiving, I know that. Bunch of hardworking guys here and ladies. That council not approve it until there is a definitive decision on whether Raytheon is going to choose 9.2, and if so, show us on the vesting map where that park will be, and we'll zone it as rec and park. And they can turn off to the next developer and say, hey, when you build your office building, great, you also need to build a park for the city. And the city, dedicate the city will take it over and maintain it. But as stated in 9.3, you got to build it, and then you got to offer it to the city as a public benefit. If they don't want to do that, they can negotiate some other type of public benefit, and that's allowable under 9.3. Well, what I don't want to do is just ignore that these are in the development agreement and just trust that Raytheon, in the goodness of their hearts, is going to come back to us and say, here's your park, or we don't have a park, but here's this great substantial public benefit. We have a lot of needs in this town. I read, I think this is on the grant for Acacia Park. Let's see. County average for parks is 3.3 park per 1,000 people, and we're at 2.7, right? Not that things are tough here in town, but anyone who has a kid trying to play Little League or soccer, you can't find a field to practice on. And it's not like this has not been done in the past, because we've all been to Campus El Segundo on that side of town, which was basically arranged through a similar type of development agreement back in the day. And that's been a great community benefit for folks who live in town, folks who work in town. So what does the dais think about that suggestion of saying, we'll approve this, but you have to tell us within X number of days, you're going to do 9.2 or you're going to do 9.3, define what it is before it gets approved by council. Because without any definitive written agreement, I'm not confident it's ever going to happen, based on prior conduct.
We're 0 for 2.
Do we actually have that capacity to
Just
lay that on the city council as opposed
make
to
a motion.
rather just being a recommendation? I mean, it's a recommendation anyway. I don't think that the
It
onus.
would be a recommendation.
It would just be a recommendation. So I like that as a recommendation, very much so.
Yeah, I think the need for park space is going to be even more magnified with the PCC project and the
Oh, yeah.
residences there. I mean, we're just putting in more in all the affordable housing and housing that we're supposed to put in. Our parks are going to be continually stressed.
That's a great point.
But so under that, I do like the option in principle. I guess under that, what happens to the community benefit monies? We should probably have a timeline on when they have to decide, and then give Raytheon time to implement.
Well, all I'm asking for is to have some kind of definitive agreement. That can be saying 2 years from now, 3 years from now, whatever it is. If they showed up today and said, we've got a plan 5 years from now, here's what it's gonna look like, here's community benefit, but we didn't get any information about that. And from being told 2019, yeah, it's gonna be in phase 3, of course, and now they're like, what are you talking about? So, you know, fool me 3 times, shame on me, right?
Yeah, okay, no, I am,
So what do we think, and maybe I'll ask our planners, what would be a reasonable amount of time to tell Raytheon they have to come to the table and negotiate and either make a decision on what I believe is an obligation that'll be triggered within 30 days of approval?
I think that's entirely a policy decision. I think what we're here tonight, which, city manager and city attorneys expressed, is that we're looking to get recommendations from you. I wouldn't want to put a timeline on it because I don't know what they need to consider in order to make those decisions. Might be a question for the applicant who's here, if they want to suggest a timeline, then you could consider that timeline yourself amongst the body.
I would say 6 months. But then what's the teeth in it if it doesn't happen? Or you know what, better yet, we can make it conditioned upon prior to pulling of a building permit, right? So now it's not a date certain, but it's a condition precedent before you start construction, which everyone wants to get going on right away. So prior to approval of a building permit for Raytheon storage facilities, they should have a enforceable agreement informing the city which avenue they want to take for the public park benefit. And it can be 9-2, it can be 9-3, but let's just say before you get to build your new public storage, we want to know what your plans are for the future public benefit.
And to be clear, they can still negotiate that from this point up until condition of occupancy. So it could be phase 3, it could be you are, taking the exist 10 and 11 outside of the fencing. It could be identify an alternate site somewhere in town.
Yeah, that's totally up to them. But what I don't want to do is just act like this obligation doesn't exist, because I kind of feel like that's what's going on now. It's like, yeah, we'll get to it. But I mean, these roads, and especially that other extension in the park, these are priority 1. This is why we allowed them to rezone this whole thing. So I don't think we're asking too much to say, okay, well, if you don't want to live up to your end of the bargain today, when are you going to do it? And if you don't do it, then you're not going to get a building permit for your new storage facility.
And if they agree to that, does the community benefit piece that's outlined here stay in existence, the $3 million?
Oh yeah, that's from Mar Ventures and Continental. It's got nothing to do with Raytheon.
Okay.
The only thing Raytheon's offering is this memorandum of understanding you can use our fields, which is great, more field space the better, but that's a temporary fix for what we need is a long-term solution of where's the community benefit. So I think if we make it a condition precedent of before you get a building permit for your Raytheon project, we're going to need a commitment, an agreement on how this park issue gets resolved. How does that work?
I support that.
Yeah, I think resolution's really vital.
What's that?
The resolution, so that we understand.
It's just, we want to know how is it going to
exactly.
work. I don't want to come back in 5 years and they'll be like, we're going to do it in phase 7. I'm like, what's phase 7? It's not even on the map.
It's not going in.
It was fairly ambiguous at the time, but yet we thought we sort of had, we thought we had it sort of,
Yeah, that's why we wrote
handled.
section 9.3.
I know.
Because we're like, if the security is such an issue, maybe you can do it off-site, do it somewhere else. But
Right, I know.
And we're like, yeah, we'll figure it out. So, I mean, it hasn't been figured out. I'd like to get figured out.
Yes.
And I'd like to approve the charger so they can get their practices going.
I agree, I concur.
But, I don't think this is an unreasonable request.
No.
Hello? Any other conversation?
Nope, I agree with that completely.
yeah, on this topic, I just want to make sure that we have the language for the resolution. Are we clear on that? For staff?
So, Chair, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think the language that we're looking for is going to be a condition of approval, as recommended by the Planning Commission, that will make reference to council I'm sorry, that the applicant, Raytheon, will need to commit to their public benefit prior to issuance of building permit for their project. That being oh, sorry, go ahead, Mr. McNick.
Clarification, when you're saying Raytheon for their project, are you talking about the Butler building, the storage building? You're not talking about the Chargers project?
Correct. We're separating the storage facility. The chargers, we want to move forward. We don't have any issues with the chargers. It's just this kind of unsettled obligation of Raytheon that we'd like to get settled so that we don't have to keep having this hamster wheel conversation. So the request, the recommendation is add a condition that before you get your building permit for your storage facility, we're going to have an agreement from you on how the public park benefit is going to get resolved.
So I want to caution, Mr. Chair, members of the board, I want to caution everybody, I want to make sure that requirement doesn't delay the Chargers project. So that they do need to move the storage facility, right?
Right, we'll make it specific to the storage, not the road moving or any of the other requirements to let the chargers move forward. We're just saying, Raytheon, if you want to do your public storage building permit, you know.
So the staff will work with wordsmithing and following up so that this request, if the council were to grant it, does not delay the Chargers project.
Well, I mean, hypothetically speaking, what if Raytheon says, we don't need a storage facility anymore?
Well, that's a possibility. So there are three resolutions. There's 2902, 2903, and 2904. 2904 is the shed, is the storage facility. So we're talking just specifically that resolution?
Yeah, whatever we have to do to craft it to limit it to just that so it doesn't impede the other project, I think is a fair and reasonable request to say we would like some certainty from Raytheon on how you plan on delivering on your side of the bargain.
Right.
We don't want to continue this off indefinitely and say maybe next time we'll get it. I think they're obligated to provide it. They haven't told us how it's going to get done. So I'd just like to know what that's going to look like and when it's going to happen.
And Michelle does have a great question. What if they opt to not do the shed?
I would figure out a way to store some things.
If we approve it as it is, they can opt never to sell phase 3 and never develop another thing, and then we never get the park anyway, right? At least this way we've got some leverage of.
Yeah,
I can't think of how to move, they're tied together. So I don't know how we move one forward that we like and say, wait a minute, what about this other huge issue of the public benefit that's unresolved? I think this is the most fair and equitable part if we can say, okay, yeah, I mean, there's a risk they won't do it. But I also believe like they drafted this agreement, they signed it. They must have intended at the time they signed it to honor it. We just want to know what that looks like.
I think it's the best we got.
It's the best we got.
It's the best we got.
It ain't perfect. Does staff kind of understand where we're going on this? Do you need any further guidance to confuse you on what we'd like to pass on?
No, but I was trying to jot down some language here, so I think we could, the draft condition language would say, prior to issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall enter into an agreement with the city regarding, or on how the public park dedication will be handled.
Well, it's going to refer to that section and say they have to make that election before that time period. There's the option in there of what they can elect, so we'll use that exact language, that they have to make that election.
Yeah, 9-2 or 9-3, whatever it says. These are, we've triggered it by moving 11 to 10. You're supposed to do it in 30 days, but prior to getting your building permit for the storage, you're going to tell us you do a 9-2, you do a 9-3.
I'm crystal clear.
Okay, perfect. All right. That wasn't so bad. All right, so we're going to need a motion as amended.
I will make a motion as amended.
Can we have a second?
I will second that.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 Did you say aye?
Aye.
All right. I'm watching you, man. Okay, that's approved. Thank you, everyone, for your time. I know this was a long night. I appreciate you all coming out. Next is new business. We have none. Our next item on the agenda is a report from our Director of Development Services or designee. Scott, look how you clear a room. Your turn to talk, and they're all out of here. Anything to report?
Thank you,
Oh,
Chair.
sorry, Mike.
That's all right. I just wanted to remind the commission that the other item that was originally scheduled on tonight was continued until December 9th. As I previously mentioned to the commission, we are gearing up for the SB 9.
Hold on. Don't make me use the gavel.
The SB 9 study session.
Yes.
With the Planning Commission. So we'll be reaching out to survey the commission, try and get a date on the calendar, either the second or third week of December. We're trying to squeeze everything in, but we do want a special meeting, specific study session with this commission for the SB 9 study session. So please keep a lookout for that. Otherwise, it'll come in study session, and it'll be coming right back to you for the actual adoption or recommendation of the text amendments that'll be generated out of that study session. So it'll be very quick next couple months amidst the holidays here, but we're committed to getting that thing through and developing some objective development standards.
Great. Yeah, I'm in town. Whatever you need us, just let us know. We'll show up. It's very important. Thank you for continuing the Pacific Commons from tonight. Otherwise, we'd be here till tomorrow. Next, a report from our city attorney's office.
He's got nothing. Oh, go ahead.
There he
Nothing at
is.
this time, thanks.
Okay, nothing walking. Thank you, sir. And now, planning commissioner comments.
I can go first. So I just want to report that this week, yesterday, I met with a resident named Cheryl Smith, and she happens to be the administrator of a Facebook group that is very interested and concerned with the Catalyst project. So she explained some of her and I guess her group's kind of primary concerns, which would be traffic flow, parking, and then the height / the capacity of the buildings. And I reached out to meet with her because I do have a meeting with the project applicant tomorrow, which I'll report back on at the next planning commission meeting.
All right. Any comments?
A question for staff, maybe, and I don't think anybody from Raytheon is on any longer, but in 2019, when Jay and I toured the facility together, they told us that there are something like 1,000 new hires every year.
Yeah, I remember that.
And we asked the question, is there any traceable data about where those hires ultimately live? And considering our housing conversation and our affordable housing conversation and all the projects coming before us, is there a way that our economic development team can get that data from them?
We can certainly inquire. Yeah.
That they should be required to track that data because large companies, per the Southwest Air Quality Management District, they're supposed to track the commute of their employees, so they should have that data available.
Yeah.
It's just a matter
SCAG
of
might
whether-
actually have it as well.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So we'll definitely follow up on that.
Yeah.
I forgot about the SCAG survey every year.
Okay, that'd be great. It just seemed like a huge number of additional employees year over year.
All right, well, I hope to see everybody at tomorrow's Kiwanis Golf Tournament. Thanks for the Kiwanians for stepping up again. It's always for the kids to take a day off and golf. And that brings us to adjournment. Our next meeting will be December 9th, 2021, here in Chambers at 5:30 p.m. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.